6:04, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, Mornings with Brian Haldane, off and running. Brian here with you, John LaBeouf producing. Get you ready for a busy, busy Wednesday show. Attorney Richard Sprinkle is going to be in for Franz for our Legally Served segment. No federal charges in the Ronald Greene case. Yep, that's what we're talking about. Among other things, when Richard gets here about the bottom of the hour, or about 20 minutes from right now. Also on the show this morning, Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson, slated to join us at 7:15. Now that conversation has started about undedicating dedicated funds, more to the point, where do we find more money in the budget before going back to the taxpayers for more? That conversation with Dwight Hudson coming up at 7:15. 7:35, Quentin Anthony Anderson running for state senate. We get to meet him in the congressional race not long ago. He obviously came up a little bit short in that one, but is moving on, and his want to serve has put him forward again. We will talk with him at 7:35. 8 o'clock hour. Let's talk about the possibility of a Louisiana Film and Entertainment Museum. I'd call it the Hollywood South Museum. Why don't we have it? And if we did, what would it look like? Where would it be? Patrick Mulhearn slated to join us at 8:15, and we will wrap up our guest list with the folks from the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, LOPA, stopping by at 8:35. Right now, though, we start you off with top stories and trending.
Number 5.
So it looks like H&E is selling out. Connecticut-based United Rentals announced that they announced a deal yesterday. Oh, I'm sorry. That's one of yours. Hang on now. I jumped right past that. All right, number 5 starts us off with the St. George City Council meeting last night. They voted 5-2 to a reduced pay scale for incoming administration. The mayor's salary will be $160,000. Police chief's salary $140,000. City council's salary will be $36,000. Currently, all those jobs are being filled by interim officials who have announced their candidacy in the March 29th election. New salaries will go into effect on July 1st.
Number 4.
Police have arrested 2 teenagers who are allegedly involved in a shootout during the downtown Christmas parade that left a woman injured. The Baton Rouge Police Department took Trevion Collins and Eddie Monroe, both 17 years old, into custody for 1 count each of attempted first-degree murder after the shooting, which happened on December 14th at the downtown Christmas parade. Another teenager allegedly involved in the shooting, 15-year-old Christopher King, was arrested back on January 10th.
Number 3.
Paul Sawyer, formerly chief of staff for Congressman Garrett Graves, landed a gig yesterday. He was been named the new executive director of the Amite River Basin Commission.
Number 2.
Federal prosecutors told family members Tuesday that they will not bring charges in the deadly 2019 arrest of black motorist Ronald Greene, closing the books on a lengthy FBI investigation into the white troopers who stunned, punched, and dragged Greene on a roadside, and allegations of an attempted cover-up by the Louisiana State Police.
Number 1.
For our number 1 story, actually takes us back to earlier on yesterday. A man previously convicted of drug dealing back in 2015 was sentenced to nearly 9 years in prison for a 2020 drug and gun arrest. 51-year-old Damon Lockett was sentenced to 105 months after he was found guilty of dealing heroin and fentanyl, as well as the possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Additionally, Lockett will serve 4 years of supervised release after his prison sentence.
Well, what is trending is House Speaker Mike Johnson said he is going to order that the flags at the Capitol, which are at half-staff due to the death of former President Jimmy Carter, be raised for President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration, defying a White House proclamation.
Yeah. So. I was reading that story. I don't know if I make as much of this as they are. Or I don't know if it's... Obviously, you fly the flag at half-staff after the death of a former president, but it's not like it's a super short period of time, you know?
Right. I mean, it's a month, and it's temporary. It's just that I'm sure in Trump's photos he doesn't want the flag being half-staff, because he did mention on social media that Democrats are all giddy about the imagery that would come from it,
right,
if it is, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, this is just a temporary situation.
It's less than a month though. The
Yeah.
proclamation from the president was 30 days.
Right.
So I don't know. It just for me it feels like another time for both sides to play on ego.
Yeah, unfortunately. Hey, in other news, Connecticut-based United Rentals announced a deal Tuesday to acquire Baton Rouge's H&E equipment services for an estimated $4.8 billion.
Not bad if you can get it, huh?
Not bad at all.
$4.8 billion. I was reading up on this yesterday. It's like a 5-page press release breaking up the whole thing. I mean, that's the long and the short of it, though. Is a decent influx of cash for a number of folks in Baton Rouge as this thing moves on.
Oh, absolutely. Even the shares I saw where H&E shares were up 106% in the early trade. Man, it's awesome. In other news, the Belle of Baton Rouge riverboat was towed Tuesday morning from downtown on the Mississippi River to Gibson, Louisiana, after 30 years in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, they don't need it anymore.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, but like they don't need it, so
Right.
why not move it on? Move it somewhere who does need it. It's going to look weird coming across the bridge, for sure.
I think so.
But we already don't have the kid right now, so our riverfront looks pretty naked.
Yeah. Oof. Hey, I didn't realize that was actually the first casino in Baton Rouge.
Yes.
Didn't realize that. That's
They
amazing.
started up, and then the Rouge moved in.
September of '94. I had for the at
Okay.
least the Belle.
Okay, sounds about right.
Yeah.
And
Really cool.
yeah, and then L'Auberge was much, much later. And then when L'Auberge started up, they said there's no way 3 casinos are going to survive in Baton Rouge. And well, so far so good, I guess.
Yeah.
They have
Fast
to
as
keep.
that
They
one.
each will have to keep upping their game as they move forward.
Of
So.
course.
Yep. That's your look at top stories and trending. When we come back from our break, it'll be sports time, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Saints coaching search. LSU men's basketball was impressive last night. Got themselves, they're in the win column, got themselves a dub on the home court. Right now, though, before we take that break, I got to remind you about the folks over at Vex European, celebrating 10 years of service, 10 years of specialization, 10 years of Vexpertise. Vinny and his crew over at Vex European, what they do, they service European vehicles, okay? If you drive a European vehicle, visit Vex with a V, VexEuropean.com. Hit the little drop-down menu where it says vehicles. If your make is there, they have an expert to work on your car. They're going to pair you with that expert. That expert stays with you. Gets to know your car inside and out. Check them out online at VexEuropean.com. In real life, you'll find them in the backside of Industrialplex on Benefit Drive. But it starts at VexEuropean.com. Let me go let him in. Oh, he's in. Okay. Taylor. Can't make the news happen. And still be here to talk about it.
Let's see. Oh, those the highlights. Did you send them to me? If you did, I don't have them.
Okay. No, Taylor sent them to you.
Okay, yeah, I don't have anything. Last I have is from.
You don't have.
No, last email was.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to get him.
Yeah, I didn't.
It's john.lebuff@guaranteemedia.com, right?
That's it.
All right.
Yeah, last email I got was from Andrew Griffon.
You should have it now.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I don't see it yet, but. I got it. Thank you.
Quite the battle in the Maravich Assembly Center last night for the LSU men's basketball team. 6:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. It is sports time. Tigers welcome in. It's so unusual to look at and see John Calipari wearing maroon. John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks last night. Both teams come in at 0-3 in conference play. Tigers survive to move to 1-3. Arkansas now moves to 0-4 within the Southeastern Conference. Interesting looking box score for the Tigers because only two LSU Tigers were in double figures. Those two were Cam Carter, who, oh man, what a ridiculous game. 27 points on the night. Carter was also good for 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. He was just phenomenal the whole night. But also in the double digits column there was Jordan Sears, who had 17, including going 3 of 8 from behind the 3-point line. Other than that, the remaining LSU players who played, because Victorious Miller was out with an injury, the remaining LSU players who played were all in single digits. You had Jai Bailey had 8, Mike Williams III had 8, Derek Fountain had 6. Damian Collins at 7. Curtis Givens had 3. Corey Chest had 2. And all total, that's 78 points, and that was all it needed to get done. The game by Cam Carter, I cannot oversell how good he was. For example, in the second half, as LSU was battling back, eventually tying it and taking the lead. I mean, here was Carter on a layup that actually took the lead.
Thero driving in, missed on the first effort. Second effort blocked by Collins. Going to be picked up by Carter. Carter going in, spins, layup, goes around the rim and in. Drove it right at Carter Knox. Spun in the lane and lays it in nicely. 38-36, Tigers on top.
And it would be back and forth throughout the game. LSU would lose that lead. They'd pick it back up again. They'd lose it again. They'd pick it back up. One more play from Carter. Like I said, he was a 3 of 6 from behind the 3-point line. Step back 3 later in the second half sounded like this.
Ahead to Williams, now to Carter. Shot fake, left of the arc. Still dribbling, step back, got his man in the air, launches a 3. Yes! Wow, what a play by Cam Carter. It's a 9-point LSU lead, their largest of the night.
That lead would, of course, tighten up, and 78-74, your final. LSU now moves on in conference play where it is going to get a lot tougher. The next 3 opponents are all ranked in the top 25. They'll be at Texas A&M on Saturday, 7:30 p.m. tip-off. Texas A&M ranked number 11 in the country. Then they will head to number 4 Alabama, another 7:30 p.m. tip-off on January 25th. So that's a full week off in between. And then they will head to number 1, and they'll come home to play number 1 in the nation. That would be Auburn on January 29th. So I didn't say it doesn't lighten up after that. You have non-ranked Texas, and then you play Georgia and Ole Miss, who are both ranked 23 and 21, respectively. So wins are going to be few and far between. And credit to the Tigers for getting one where they could. And the thing of it is, this team would beat the pants off of last year's team. So moving over to football. It is time to, let's take just a quick minute to take a look at that coaching search for New Orleans as the name Mike McCarthy continues to just float around out there. McCarthy's no stranger to the Saints. He was their offensive coordinator from 2000 to 2004, during which time the team won its first ever playoff game. Jim Derry, host of the Datitude podcast for NOLA.com, says McCarthy has a lot in common with Sean Payton.
Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton are 6 weeks apart in age. Yep. They have almost the identical record throughout their career. They had almost the same amount of playoff appearances. They both have a Super Bowl. McCarthy has 4 NFC Championship appearances. Sean Payton has 3.
There would be a lot to like about a McCarthy hire, but the search continues. Here's the Fox Business Report. Come on over, Richard. I'm all right. Wiped out. Sweating for no reason. once Washington Mardi Gras is over with. Yeah, when I was texting you, I was on my way home from coaching basketball last night. Last night I got to bed about 1. Interesting. We're going to start you up on I-10 eastbound coming in from West Baton Rouge Parish. If you're on that downslope of the bridge making the turn on to 10 eastbound, you're going to see some delays right there. Not major, not super duper heavy, but you might have to tap the brakes a little bit as volume is a lot higher than normal for this time of morning. Over on 12 westbound, we're slow going in between Essen and the 10-12 merge. And if you back things up a little bit, you're going to get some intermittent delays. Starting before Range Avenue and Denham Springs, and it's just tap the brakes lightly all the way through, basically all the way on and off through on 12 westbound coming in from Livingston Parish. 10 westbound coming in from Ascension Parish looks good right now. Surface streets, we got a couple of accidents to report, brand new one with injury. That would be Segan at Rieger Road. Segan at Rieger Road, East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office working a crash with injuries right there. We've also got East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office working a crash Mickens at Silverleaf from about half an hour ago. That's your look at traffic from the Shawbill Star Traffic Center. 625, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, starting off at 49 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge. Will not be 49 degrees this time next week. Whew. Now I'm going to have it even worse. Talk 107.3 is heading back to our nation's capital to celebrate Washington Mardi Gras. Join me and Gordy Rush Thursday, January 23rd and Friday the 24th as we broadcast live from the Washington Hilton for both Mornings with Brian Haldane as well as a special afternoon drive show each day from 4 to 6 p.m. Our coverage is presented by Presley Wealth Management, Rev, the Baton Rouge Metro Airport, and Restore, the Mississippi River Delta. Next Wednesday I'll be wheels up, and I don't think the temperature is going to get out of the 20s in D.C. on Wednesday. It'll fortunately be like a a balmy 36 by Thursday. But, man, I'm looking at basically what I'm looking at with the forecast is to see if it's going to snow around here. As depending on when you look at the forecast, there's a decent chance that we might see some snow. I was talking with Dr. Josh Eaches about that yesterday. He says, let's hold off for about 48 hours before we start to make any real predictions here. I said, okay, no problem. So, right now, though, it's time for Legally Served. Pinch hitting for Franz Borghardt is one Richard Sprinkle. He joins us now. How are you, man?
Great, Brian. How you doing this morning?
I'm very well as well. It's one of the bigger stories of the last, half dozen years, I guess.
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah. On and off, on again, off again. Federal prosecutors told family members Tuesday they will not bring charges in the deadly 2019 arrest of Ronald Green, closing the books on a lengthy FBI investigation into, white troopers, black driver, stunned, punched, dragged on a roadside, allegations of an attempted cover-up by the Louisiana State Police. All started with Ronald Green running after being, trying to get away after being pulled over. That part of the story got lost very early on. It wasn't like it just didn't start with a regular traffic stop.
No.
So, not that we need to rehash that part of it. The U.S. Department of Justice informed Green's family members of the decision, as officials were also preparing to release findings from a broader civil rights investigation that found a pattern of state troopers using excessive force, according to officials familiar with the inquiry. We've only got about a minute and a half, 2 minutes till break. So I want to start this conversation now and then pick it up and really dig in on the back side.
Right.
It feels like when you start to read those two paragraphs, you're closing the book.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, are we opening another book?
It sure looks that way. And it's almost contradictory. On the one hand, we say we're not going to bring charges against these individual officers.
Right.
But over here, we see a pattern in practice amongst the department as a whole. Where does that leave us?
The official spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity because they cannot publicly discuss details ahead of an announcement expected later in the week.
Right.
That's the rest of the second paragraph of the story.
Sure.
I can't help but feel like the world's about to flip upside down on the Louisiana State Police.
I have a feeling it is.
Okay.
I have a feeling.
Then I'm not alone on that.
No.
The pattern or practice inquiry launched in 2022 followed an AP investigation that found Green's arrest was among at least a dozen cases in which state troopers and their bosses ignored or concealed evidence of beatings, deflected blame, and impeded efforts to root out misconduct in the agency. In one case, a white trooper pummeled a black man 18 times with a flashlight following a traffic stop, leaving him with a broken jaw, broken ribs, and a gash to his head. Tell you what, let's go ahead and pause. We're going to hit news. We'll hit local news, ABC News, local news, traffic, weather. When we come back, we're going to dive into, first of all, the troopers who are not going to see the federal charges, and then we'll move it over to what could be coming just around the corner. Right now, though, as we approach 6:30 at Talk 107.3 FM, tell you what, we got 15 seconds till break. Enough time for me to remind you that Talk 107.3 FM is available on demand whenever you need it with the Talk 107.3 mobile app. Download that app today. It's in your app store. Talk 107.3 mobile app, available right now. I'm just not in. I'm not here.
I get it, man. You are running hard these days. Sports all the time, radio in the mornings. And you know, outside of this, you have a life.
It's the Washington Mardi Gras stuff right now.
What is Washington Mardi Gras? I don't even know. What is Washington? They actually celebrate Mardi Gras up there?
Yeah, they have a parade inside the Hilton.
Okay.
It's like 1 or 2 floats in the parade, but it's more about having the ball.
Yeah.
They have a tableau ball on Friday night and then the big ball and parade on Saturday. They have a big party called Louisiana Live on Thursday night, and it's basically business people, politicos, like you bring
Right.
everybody together in a Washington Hilton, and every meeting you could want to have.
Yeah.
I'll be doing a show from the Veterans Area Chamber. They host a party on Thursday evening before the big Louisiana Live party. There's hospitality suites lined up on 2 different floors. It's a really, really cool event where a lot of business gets done. If you want to know what's going to be talked about during the legislative session,
That's the place to be. Yeah. Got it. Okay. I figured as much, but
I have a 3-pronged preseason for the legislative session. Washington Mardi Gras, LABI's annual conference,
right.
and then the Pelican Institute's Solutions Summit.
Okay.
After those 3 things, I know everything I need to know about the session. So,
Neat. Very cool. No, I thought it was another one of these lame attempts at a Mardi Gras like other cities. Funny story, when I was in law school, I was on one of those teams that travels and competes against other law schools and stuff and mock arguments and whatnot, moot court competitions. We get to St. Louis, and we're there over Mardi Gras, which sucks because, here you got 8 students from LSU up there in St. Louis. We land in the airport. We have to hire 2 Ubers for all of our bags and everything else, so we get 2 Suburbans to come pick us up. And I jump in my car, and the guy's like, "Oh man, you guys are here at just the perfect time." I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah. Did you know St. Louis has the 2nd biggest Mardi Gras in the entire country?" I'm like, "Cool story, bro. We're from Louisiana." He's like, "Oh, okay," and then just drove us right on. Shut that story down in a second. And they do have a parade. I believe it's like 2 parades, one after the other.
don't make me take up for Mobile.
It's bad.
They're bigger than Mobile, do they?
I don't know. They said it's the 2nd biggest. At least that's what this Uber driver said. And, to quote Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last. So who cares?
Yeah.
Second place is just the first loser. This guy does traffic. You do traffic. Everybody's doing traffic.
Okay, so with our agreement with them, we only have 5 traffic breaks per hour. Most hours we don't need 5, but the 6 o'clock hour we need 6.
Yeah.
So that 6:25 one or 6:24 one, I do it.
Okay.
He does it at 6:03, 6:03, 6:13, 6:33 or 34 is when it actually airs. I guess it's on the 4s all the way through. 04, 14, 34, 44, 54. It's him every time.
Okay.
So it just leaves us with 1 short.
Okay.
I need to go buy a new white dress shirt today.
I got to get a couple of new ones of those, too. I've had a gift card to Men's Warehouse now for a couple of years. I really
Men's Warehouse has their clearance sale going on right now.
Oh, then now's the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll go check them out. It's the one time being a big guy pays off.
What, Men's Warehouse? Or?
Clearance sales.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's what goes.
Our stuff's still left. All the skinny stuff's
That's
gone.
what. Oh yeah. That's what I meant.
It's that one time it pays off. Well, that in winter when all the skinny dudes are freezing to death.
Yeah.
I appreciate my extra layer of insulation.
Well, even with my extra layer of insulation, I think when I get to DC next week, I'm going to Uber.
Oh, that's going to be cold, man.
Yeah, I'm. You know where the Washington Hilton is at? How familiar are you with DC?
Man, I haven't been to DC since the 8th grade. I need to go back.
So I'm at the Washington Hilton. I'm at an Airbnb that's right across the street from the Washington Hilton. the closest metro stop is about 2/3 of a mile up the road.
Ew.
I know.
Ew.
I know. It's in this weird little vacuum of nothingness as far as metros are concerned.
Uber it is.
Excuse me.
Closest I'm going to possibly get to super cold weather this year is Chicago in May.
Well, should be a little bit warmed up by then.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we're going to look at today's forecast, but there's a lot of looking ahead through the weekend into next week as well. Here's the McCabe Cowan. Ooh. .638, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. It's legally served. Franz Borghardt is out. Richard Sprinkle is in, which, by the way, I think you're pinch hitting 2 weeks in a row.
Hey, no worries, man. Franz is out globetrotting again.
I know. He's all over the place.
Yeah.
He's,
one day I want to be like him when I grow up.
he's kind of everywhere. So
I know.
I don't know how. It is a difficult task to be Franz Borghardt, but he takes it on. We got Our lead story this morning, as far as legally served is concerned, federal prosecutors told family members yesterday they're not going to bring charges in the deadly 2019 arrest of Ronald Green. We're talking with Richard about this. Let's start with the officers who are not going to be charged here.
Right.
Are they done?
They are done from a criminal standpoint because there's already a state case. Right?
Yeah.
So if there's now not going to be a federal case, well, then the criminal proceedings have gone as far as they're going to go.
Okay. Criminal means if we're done with that, we move on to civil.
Right.
Okay. You were telling me something during the break that sounded very interesting.
Well, there was a wrongful death suit filed a long time ago.
Right.
So that suit is out there, and that's what I refer to as a live ball. But the reality is there's only 2 officers left in the state proceedings, right? The state criminal proceedings.
Yep.
Well, one's out. I'm sorry. There's only one left. And the one that got out pled no contest, nolo contendere, whatever you want to call it. And it is anticipated that the one that's remaining is going to be taking the exact same plea. Now, what those are is it's a no contest plea. So in criminal court, you're basically saying, I did it, but I'm not admitting guilt. I just want this wrapped up,
right,
so to speak. It sounds ambiguous, and it should because it feels ambiguous. But there's a trick about that. There's a big trick. A no contest plea is inadmissible in a civil case as evidence. So in a criminal case, let's say somebody's convicted of a DUI, then there's going to be a civil case against them as well. And that DUI conviction is going to work against them in the civil case. It's way more evidence to show, look how drunk this guy was and how negligent he was, or girl. I don't want to be sexist about it. But this time, Louisiana Code of Evidence Article 410 is going to say, nope, you can't use that against him in the civil case.
Then where would a civil case build its case from?
Well, it's still going to have the case. It's still going to have the case because they're going to be able to show all this other stuff. The one thing they can't bring in is the no contest plea.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So they don't get to use that to bolster the case. It doesn't make the case go away.
No.
Absolutely not.
No. But if you can't use guilt in the civil case, then
then you just have to prove beyond a preponderance. Remember, you've got 2 different standards. On the criminal side, you've got to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt. It's the toughest standard under the law, et cetera, et cetera. On a civil side, you only have to prove things by a preponderance, which is anything greater than 50%. So if there's any likelihood this guy did it more than not, then you win in the civil side.
On that civil side, are these officers individuals on the civil side, or is it, with the cases filed, is it one big, like, we're charging everybody together?
I would imagine, I haven't read the suit, but I would imagine it names each officer individually, and it probably names Louisiana. Well, I guarantee it names the state of Louisiana, it names the Louisiana State Patrol. In a civil case, you name every defendant you can, just to make sure you have the right people left at the end of the day.
And as far as that's concerned, I mean, these guys are state troopers. It's not like they've got the deepest pockets around.
No. But what will typically happen is they'll get financially indemnified by the agency. The agency will step in and cover it. It's not like you're going to, because you sue these folks in their own capacity, acting as a Louisiana state trooper. So you're bringing both in at that point.
Attorney Richard Sprinkle's in with us for Legally Served. Let's move from the individual officers over to what's coming next. And you and I both kind of think the same thing here, that sometime later on this week, the world's going to flip upside down, because the article per the Associated Press says, U.S. Justice Department informed Green's family of the decision, as officials were also preparing to release findings from a broader civil rights investigation that found a pattern of state troopers using excessive force.
Right.
The story goes on to describe 4 or 5 different instances. I don't know how many it takes to declare a pattern, but if you get 4 or 5 within one article, odds are there's more we don't know about.
Right.
Odds are that the word pattern can pretty quickly be established.
So the magic words here are pattern and practice, right? Meaning it's just standard operating procedure. It's how they do things. It's normal course of business for an agency to operate in a certain way. That's what finding a pattern and practice really is. And if it's kind of confusing that on the one hand we're not filing any federal charges, but on the other hand we're determining that there is a pattern and practice, and that hasn't come out yet. But there's a strong suspicion that it's going to come out in the next couple of days.
Well, yeah, the article itself said
there were anonymous folks that were.
The official spoke to the AP on condition of anonymity because they could not publicly discuss details ahead of an announcement expected later in the week. Is getting rid of the federal charges for the individual officers just part of saying we're about to fry a bigger fish? Like
I mean,
they don't want to focus on the individual officers if they feel like the problem's that much bigger.
Right.
That's what I'm taking from it.
Right. And that's probably a good take on it, because you don't want, what you wouldn't want is for these individual officers, regardless of what happened, you wouldn't want them to be the quote unquote scapegoats for everything that happens in the department.
Right.
And all I can say is 2 words. Well, it's a few more than 2 words. Remember when NOPD had to operate under the consent decree?
What? You mean all the way up to yesterday?
Yeah,
they're actually still in it for a few more years.
Yeah, I think they are. Well, that could be what happens here. I don't know.
Consent decree for state police.
Possible.
Okay. Oh man, there's so much more to talk about. I wanted to talk about what this would look like as far as like timelines are concerned and whatnot, because of how deep this is, how deep this runs.
Right.
As far as the number of examples they've already given and whatnot. I mean, stories that I hadn't heard of before. Ronald Green garners so many headlines, but I mean, within this Associated Press story, they talk about state police. No, that's part of the Ronald Green part. I'm not going to try and scroll through in real time. My eyes aren't that quick, that good.
Right.
But there are numerous instances, and I don't know that it's enough to say this is. You said pattern and practice.
Yeah, that's the magic.
To me,
those
it
are the
feels
magic
like
words.
If you're state police, it's easy to say no. Like even if you've got 24, 3 instances, there's no way to prove that it's practice, right?
3 instances.
Out of how many thousands of interactions do state police have?
I'm. It's leaning towards pattern and practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you've got let's say on any given day, state police interact with, I don't know, a couple hundred people.
Sure.
Over the course of, I don't know how long, like let's just say 6 years, let's go back to the beginning of the Ronald Green thing. if you've got that period of time, you're talking about tens of thousands
Right.
of interactions.
Right.
Something that happens 36 times out of 10,000, I don't know how you call that a pattern.
That's going to be
Walk me through it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's going to be how they get there. You're never going to know. That's the whole point here. You're never going to know how many times this actually occurred.
Right.
All you've got is what's been reported and what's bubbled up to the surface.
So if I'm state police, what's my angle here? What's my defense?
If you're state police, you're going to argue, well, there's only X number, like you said.
Okay.
Right? Like Attorney Brian said over here, there's only X number of things, right? So you can't establish a pattern that way. But on the prosecutorial side, they're going to say, oh, but yes, we can, because they'll look at other studies that have happened in other jurisdictions, and long story short, it's just going to be a number per capita type of analysis.
I got one more on this one. We got a break. Let's take a quick break. He's Richard Sprakel in for Legally Served. We'll check traffic. We'll check your money now. We'll continue next. My mind keeps going back to A Few Good Men.
That's a good question. Oh, A Few Good Men? Well, they got the smoking gun there, which you never do,
But where I'm going with this is there's not going to be anything in a training manual. There's not going to be anything in their academy. There's not going to be anything they're taught along the way officially that says you beat the shit out of somebody to within an inch of their life.
No.
So how do you prove that Jess supported the code red? So anyway, my whole point on the Washington Mardi Gras thing is I'm a one-man band. I'm outselling it. I'm working on logistics of it. I'm engineering it.
Oh, Lord.
Guests. I'm scheduling where the shows are coming from. All of it is full of me. And that's like, okay, let's take this major event and add it to everything. Like, so that's why I'm just not in good. I'm all out of sorts.
Okay, in federal pattern of practice investigations, the DOJ examines whether there's a pattern of practice of unlawful conduct in a law enforcement agency, but how do they determine it? That's the question. It is not uncommon for pattern of practice investigations to be confused with DOJ's reviews. During a pattern of practice, investigators and attorneys review officer trainings, policies, and actual day-to-day practices, examine accountability systems, data collection methods, interview law enforcement officers. The DOJ also seeks feedback from local impacted communities. So interesting. I'm going to shoot you this. Good article for later reading. Because, you got all that spare time.
Yeah.
Long story short, it doesn't appear that this is the type of thing that has to be proven in court. This is just simply, does the DOJ determine there's a pattern and practice in place? And it comes from systemic violations of law and things like that. So it's basically DOJ's decision. It's almost like when DCFS decides, hey, this person's a bad parent. We're gonna pull our kids away from them for a minute. Trust me, that doesn't have to be proven in court. They just get an instanter order and make it happen.
My brain's not catching on to the connection there because parents don't learn from a training academy put on by DCFS.
True. What I'm saying is it's that easy of a process. The agency does its investigation, and then that decision
Derek Carr goes out and throws 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't look at the offensive coordinator and blame him for the interceptions.
No.
Okay? The offensive coordinator didn't put in plays that called for interceptions.
No.
Okay? So if officers go out and they beat someone to within an inch of his life, how do you blame state police?
When state police, because they find out about it every time, right, through the reports, and so when state police systemically cover up the evidence and sweep things under the rug, that's where we're going. That's where you get it. That's where you get the problem. God, I'd hate to think we're going to let the officers off just because, well, that's just the way they do it. And their bosses seem to be okay with it.
That's my point.
You know,
it's
crazy.
The officers who did this,
right?
Not the state police as an entity.
Not as an entity, no. There was no policy in place that said if a guy speeds and doesn't pull over, then you get his car stopped, tase him while he's sitting in the driver's seat, drag him out of the car, and beat him to death, and have one of your troopers admit it on body camera.
That's my point.
Yeah. By the way, Hollingsworth is dead now, rest his soul. And he's the one that made all the comments about how I beat the blank out of that stupid mother blanker.
Yeah.
And, yeah. He's dead now, so I have a feeling his death is part of the reason they're shutting things down early.
Probably.
It's not going to be as fun without him.
That sucks. 652, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Legally served, Attorney Richard Sprinkle continuing right now. We've pivoted over to investigating state police.
Right, as
a whole. And one of the questions I was asking you is how do you prove what is now I forgot
pattern
the
in practice?
Pattern in practice. So Richard, my mind is always like it's either going to be a sports analogy or a movie. Right?
I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
I can't help but go back to A Few Good Men here. Okay, when you talk about pattern in practice, there's nothing in the police academy.
Nope.
There's nothing in a training manual. There's nothing taught in a classroom. You don't sit and look at a slideshow where the Louisiana State Police are going to teach troopers to beat the bejesus out of somebody to within an inch of their life. That is not the quote-unquote practice of the state police. So how do you prove that it's practice? How do you show that, and here's where we flip to the movie, how do you show that Jessup ordered the code red?
Well, what you show is that this similar behavior has happened on numerous times, and on those numerous times, or many, many of those numerous times, the department ignored it, investigated it, hid it, covered it up, disposed of body cam, those types of things. So it's, I believe, another agency who had some officers and similar issues.
You know what? Yeah, well, I don't know if we're gonna have time to talk.
We're
about
not
that
gonna have time to talk about
no,
those guys.
No, but that was.
But
not
you know
who
I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. So you're taking it back to the Brave Cave,
right?
Which
SCU, similar stuff.
There's a lot of similarities there,
right.
But getting back around to the pattern and practice part of this is that if your quarterback goes out and throws 3 interceptions, you can't pin that on the offensive coordinator. The quarterback acted, not the.
What if the pattern in practice is not the bad acts, but the pattern in practice is the agency covering it up?
There you go. Now you're cooking with gas.
There you go.
Because how many times do you hear that phrase? It's not it's not the action, it's the cover up.
Right.
So
it's not that you did it; it's that you lied about it. Parents tell their kids that.
Come on. As a parent, that's very, very true.
Absolutely.
It's the lie that ticks the parent off a lot more. That you screwed up. There's no screw up you can't come to me with. Don't lie
it's
about it.
It's all the circle of life.
Yep. That's okay. Is the cover up easier to prove than the pattern in practice?
The cover up is. An individual cover-up's pretty easy to prove. Mm-hmm. Nothing to it.
Right.
Multiple cover-ups lead to a pattern in practice of covering things up. So they walk hand in hand. You just need multiple cover-ups, prove multiple cover-ups, and you're proving a pattern in practice.
What kind of repercussions are we looking at here?
Well, NOPD's operating under a consent decree, and that could be what happens here. Typically, when DOJ finds a pattern in practice of misconduct, they have to work with the agency to resolve the issues, and a lot of times it comes out as a consent decree if they come to an agreement on how things should work.
I don't know of an instance where an entity operates better under the consent decree than it did on its own. As awful as things can be looked at, as awful as they can actually be, nothing's more effective under a consent decree than it was on its own.
I can't really speak to that. I've only experienced, or I didn't experience it personally, but I've only seen it in practice
time. I'm not speaking.
Right?
I'm not speaking like empirically, like I've got some large based study, or just anecdotally, like from the time that NOP went under the consent decree till now, NOPD has been progressively worse,
right?
Ineffective, and you look at other consent decrees. Getting outside of law enforcement too, it just what you look at is when you have someone who is essentially in control of an entity,
right?
But they don't have skin in the game.
Exactly,
it doesn't run the same because they're not looking. They're looking at a different set of parameters by which to judge effectiveness. Cops are looking at keeping the streets safe,
right?
Okay, a consent decree will be looking to keep the cops clean.
Policing the police.
Clean's the wrong word, but yes.
Policing the police.
Right, and then how effective can a policeman be with that over his shoulder?
Had the same issue in the military, ROE, rules of engagement, where, we're told to go out. I was in the Marines. We're taught to, go out and locate, close with, and destroy the enemy. And then all of a sudden somebody's like, well, hang on. Don't do all that stuff you're trained to do. So it's similar, not the exact same difference, but it's similar. I'm sure there's officers that feel their hands are tied when there's a consent decree in place. I'm positive of it.
No.
And would that make certain people less effective? I'm sure it would.
Yeah. Wrongful death lawsuit, the civil suit.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a timeline on that, do we?
No, we really don't. But those things typically get held in abeyance until the criminal side is done. So if the criminal side, we know there's not going to be federal criminal, so that's done. So the minute this last man standing takes his plea, that's over with, and they'll move it forward. And since we all know what he's going to plead, they might as well move it forward now anyway.
That's
no real point in waiting.
No. Oh, there's going to be a lot to talk about as these things continue to bubble up. I mean, when you talk about just the way this story teased what's to come.
Oh yeah,
putting it all on a tee for that.
I think Friday is going to be an interesting news day.
As do I.
Yeah.
As do I. He's attorney Richard Sprinkle filling in for Franz Borchardt. Man, I really, really appreciate it.
I love being here, man. Anytime.
Oh, you always do a great job as well. Hey, before we get you news, got to remind you about Parish Construction and Roofing. ParishBuilt.com is the website. ParishBuilt.com is the website. Hop on Parish Construction and Roofing's website, and then they right on their homepage, they've got a little form to fill out where you give them your name, your email address, your actual address, your phone number, and the like. And what they'll do is they'll come out to your house, get up on your roof, and take a look at it to see if you have damage or need a whole new roof. I happen to have needed a whole new roof, and I'm so glad that I called them because now I have a whole new roof, and the process was unbelievably simple. Look, they like to say do business with someone you know, and that can mean a lot of things. For me, what it meant was it was someone I could call on, someone I could rely on, someone that I could put my trust in to say, hey, here's what the insurance adjuster's saying. What say you? Hey, here's where we're at with the check they're offering to get the ball rolling. What say you? It starts at ParishBuilt.com. Do business with someone you know. You're listening to a very, very happy customer of Parish Construction and Roofing. That was supposed to be about commercial roofs. I realized 40 seconds into it that I had a discussion yesterday about I want to pivot from residential to commercial.
Mm. It's all right, man. It's all right.
Are you and Franz doing the podcast again?
We need to. We haven't set up a time to do it, but we need to. The problem is we're just both stretched so thin on time. Yeah. All the gear's sitting in my office just dying to get used.
Yeah, there's shit ton to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Always.
Yeah. I pulled the Saturdays on Demand lineup. It's not out there anymore.
Yeah.
And we signed up with Bloomberg News, so we run Bloomberg all weekend long. And I get complaints from time to time. Some people say it's boring. I find it fascinating because it's live on the weekends, and it's like, some of it's live, some of it's podcast. But It's financial news, 24/7. And one of my favorite things about Bloomberg is on Sunday nights, I'm getting a preview of what's to come when the market's open on Monday.
Sure.
Because they're already dialed in on the Nikkei.
Right.
And the Nikkei sets the tone for Wall Street. So, I've just been absolutely loving it. But I can carve, if I can get enough podcasts together, I can carve back out the Saturdays on Demand thing again. So it's just everybody in the building. My podcast got not shelved, but I mean, I'm too many different directions right now.
That's what happened with us.
Same with Michelle,
Yeah.
her Only in Louisiana podcast. Same thing. It gets tough to keep up with. What's up, Scotty? So, and then like the only one that was staying fresh was the Patty G show.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem with us is getting us both together was tough enough, and getting me an extra half hour to an hour to produce the thing once we recorded it. We switched over to that Rode podcaster board, which let me basically produce it on the fly, which was great. Maybe not always as good as, having some extra time to tweak, but no, it doesn't have to be. I've heard some amazing podcasts. Duff McKagan and his wife, bassist from Guns N' Roses, has a great one that they air on Sirius. And it's called Three Chords and the Truth. And their audio sounds absolutely horrible because he's usually recording it on a stupid little mini recorder in his hotel room while their band's touring and stuff.
See, that's awful.
But people love it. And I mean, his audio is terrible, but then the audio of the music they play is fine. So who cares?
Well, that's,
So anyway, what time are you swinging by?
Okay. It calls for both parents' signatures. Do both parents have to be present?
For the notary, yeah.
Then I'm probably not swinging by today.
Okay, not a worry. I was going to say I got court at 9 anyway, so but let me know, man. What I'll do is I'll start keeping my stamp in the bag, and even if we have to meet up somewhere, we'll get it done.
Okay.
I don't even really need the stamp. Just my signature, my bar roll number, and the phrase "my commission expires at death" under it is all it requires.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's interesting, the whole notary thing. To be a notary in Louisiana, you have to take all these classes and pass this test and get, the governor's going to give you a nice certificate and all that fun stuff. Unless you're an attorney. If you're a lawyer, you basically fill out an application and send in the money, and here it comes.
Yeah.
So therefore, most lawyers don't know everything notaries know because we didn't take those classes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of, notaries know exactly where everything has to be filed and everything has to be done and this, that, and the other. Lawyers are just basically notarizing, saying, I witnessed a guy signing something, 9 times out of 10.
Okay.
And that stamp gets more lawyers in trouble because of that than virtually any other ethical violation they can.
Really?
Yeah. Simple things like, do I need to be present to sign it? Nah. So you notarize something, and the next thing you know, it's getting disputed, like a will or something later on down the road.
This is.
I know this isn't. This is a permission slip to go on a field trip, right?
Right. To France.
Yeah, I've done these before for other attorneys, actually. So yeah, I don't care. I'll sign it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if Christy could sign it, and then I bring it over to you, and you witness me signing it.
Yeah, I can't. Like I said, I'd rather just. It's one of those ethical things.
Understood.
I'm a nerd.
Understood. No.
I'm a nerd like that.
That's all good. All right. Thank you, Richard. .705 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Hour 2 coming your way right now. Brian here with you. John LaBeouf producing. We've got, no slowing down in the second hour here. Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson slated to join us coming up in our next segment. Looking forward to this conversation. We started the conversation last week with Metro Councilman Aaron Moak about basically scrubbing the budget. Well, not scrubbing the budget, but a deep dive into our city parish budget to see where are there dollars available for anything. There's got to be more out there. And the discussion immediately turned to, well, everyone seems to be flush because of dedicated funds, like individually. The library, we just approved BREC. We've seen before with CATS. We've seen before with the Council on Aging. We've seen before with anybody who has their own individual millage. on your property taxes is going to be doing all right. But when it comes to just those general fund dollars, when you need things like District Attorney Hill or Moore is super short in his budget and understaffed, when the city needs a new jail, where do we go for those dollars? We can't just go pillage the libraries for money unless you undedicate it. How do we undedicate funds? We're talking with Dwight Hudson in our next segment. Also this hour, Quentin Anthony Anderson is running for state senate. He will join us at 7:35. Right now, top stories and trending. Let's go.
Number 5.
Governor Jeff Landry's up in Washington, D.C. today talking about infrastructure, according to a press release. Landry is testifying before the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure on the urgent need for federal support to modernize Louisiana's infrastructure, tackle environmental challenges, and boost Louisiana's economy. This is, interestingly enough, that's the committee that Garrett Graves was on until just a couple weeks ago. The meeting's going to be streamed on YouTube at 9 o'clock this morning if you really wanted to watch.
Number 4.
St. George Council voted 5-2 for a reduced pay scale for incoming administration. The mayor's salary is going to be $160,000, police chief $140,000. City council will be at $36,000 apiece. Currently, all those jobs are being fulfilled by interim officials who have announced their candidacy for the March 29th elections. The new salaries will go into effect on July 1st.
Number 3.
Police have arrested 2 teenagers who are allegedly involved in a shootout during a downtown Christmas parade that left a woman injured. The Baton Rouge Police Department took Travion Collins and Eddie Monroe, both 17 years old, into custody for 1 count each of attempted first-degree murder after the December 14th downtown Christmas parade. Another teenager allegedly involved in the shooting, 15-year-old Christopher King, was arrested back on January 10th.
Number 2.
Paul Sawyer, formerly chief of staff for Congressman Garrett Graves, has been announced as the new executive director of the Amy River Basin Commission. Man, this is, I just to editorialize real quick. First of all, it's a good hire because Paul's awesome. Secondly, this stays in his wheelhouse because his work with Congressman Graves, how much did they talk about flood control? So this is going to be a nice pairing. We're going to get Paul on the show real soon. I want to chat with him about his new gig.
Number 1.
Federal prosecutors told family members Tuesday they will not bring charges in the deadly 2019 arrest of black motorist Ronald Green, closing the books on a lengthy FBI investigation into white troopers who stunned, punched, and dragged Green on a roadside and allegations of an attempted cover-up by state police. All of the incident with Green happening after a high-speed chase where he took off after a simple traffic violation stop. We covered that at length in our Legally Served segment last hour. What's trending, John?
Well, the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, said he is going to order that the flags at the Capitol, which are at half-staff due to the death of former President Jimmy Carter, be raised for President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration, defying a White House proclamation.
So the White House proclamation said 30 days.
Right.
That would create the photograph showing the flags being at half-staff for Donald Trump coming in.
It would.
If you're Donald Trump and you have Donald Trump's ego, you don't want that forever engraved.
No.
And if you're the Democrats with the Democrats' ego, you want that forever engraved.
Absolutely. Trump actually mentioned that in a social media post that Democrats are all giddy about the imagery. So, but I mean, it'll be temporarily, raised. I mean, it'll be back the next day, from what I understand, and for the remainder of January. But you're right. I mean, for Democrats, it's
when we say but it's not just this president's proclamation, right? It's as far as I know, that's what it was. That's what the standard is. And I read on this briefly last night. I will admit I didn't spend a ton of time on it last night. But what I did read said 30 days is basically the standard. So it's not like Joe Biden did this to set Donald Trump up.
Of course not.
But he's the president. It's his proclamation. He could have done it another way. So, yeah.
So you feel like it's a little childish, right? Little bit, maybe.
Man, I just legit don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
Because you're talking ego, you're talking pride, you're talking just
ego on both sides.
yes, absolutely. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Hey, Connecticut-based United Rentals announced a deal Tuesday to acquire Baton Rouge's H&E Equipment Services for an estimated $4.8 billion.
$billion.
Billion. Wow.
So the press release coming out of Stamford, Connecticut, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, United Rentals and H&E Equipment Service announced their entry into a definitive agreement under which United Rentals will acquire H&E for $92 per share in cash, which you were telling me is already up from there, right?
Yes, it looks like the shares of H&E were up 106% in the early trade. United rose to about 5%.
Okay, but the purchase price is $92 per share in cash.
Wow.
$4.8 billion, including approximately $1.4 billion of net debt. That's big news.
That is very big.
A lot of money floating around for sure.
Yes, indeed. Hey, another big news. The Belle of Baton Rouge riverboat was towed Tuesday morning from downtown on the Mississippi River to Gibson, Louisiana, after 30 years in Baton Rouge here.
They don't need it anymore.
No.
Make use of it. Absolutely. You got a land-based casino now. Now, I will say this. Our riverfront's pretty naked right now.
Yeah.
No Belle of Baton Rouge. No USS Kidd.
Nope.
And we just got the paperclip dock there with nothing at it. So,
and I learned that it was sold to Louisiana Scrap Metal Recycling. It's going to be dismantled, but I hear all the pieces are supposed to be recycled. Supposed to be recycled.
Okay.
Yeah. $141 million for the cost of this project.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Oh, by the way, for those who are curious, Gibson is in St. James Parish, so it's not like it's going all the way downriver.
Oh, right.
Yeah. It's 712 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Quick break. When we come back, let's talk about the city parish budget. Dwight Hudson's in the house next. Your timing was perfect. Was Richard on his way out?
Somebody was coming in. I didn't
Oh, okay. Cool.
Would you mind grabbing a picture?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Dwight, by the way. I think I
Yeah,
met you last time. Yeah.
Yep.
I realized when I left the house this morning, I didn't bring my sport coat. And I need it for my lunch meeting. Ozark.
Ozark, yeah. I thought they might do something like that.
$7:15, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. How do we reroute tax dollars? Is that even possible? Last week, we had Metro Councilman Aaron Moak in to talk about this, talk about the challenges, priorities of budgeting and whatnot. And there was, to me at least, no way to get too far into the conversation without talking about undedicating funds. And I'm like, man, you know who has the same soapbox for undedicating funds as I do? That would be Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson. So welcome back in. How are you, sir?
Hey, good, Brian. How about you?
Doing well. Let's start with the conversation that we had with Councilman Moak yesterday, last week, that y'all had within the Metro Council as well. How did it get started, and how serious is it?
Yeah, so first let me applaud Councilman Moak, right? His effort is really more broad than just looking at those dedicated taxing agencies. He's sort of looking at all city parish revenue sources. And so, look, I think it's a great effort, right? It's something that we need to do. It just as an example, we've seen that where recently some of our development prices were too inexpensive, right? And so we were able to go in and justify to the development community to raise those. We increased the level of service as well, in that we turned around permits much faster because we were able to raise those fees. But it's a good evaluation to do, regardless of the situations that you have, the budget constraints that you have. It's a good exercise to go through on a regular basis as a municipality.
How much do you think can be found?
It depends on the political will to go in and do it, right? Honestly, I'm not very sure what the number would be on fees. We'll have to go through and do that exercise to find that out. But on dedicated taxes, I think that's really the low-hanging fruit in that effort. When I last proposed that effort, it was $50 million over 10 years, looking at just 2 dedicated taxing agencies. So if we're to expand that further, then I think you could find quite a bit of money.
Would it be easy? Okay. Would it be easier to undedicate for like one purpose one time?
Sure.
Let's use the prison or potential prison that we all agree we need as an example here. Would it be possible? And we'd have to go to the polls to do this, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's the important thing for everyone to note is that we're not taking money that you've dedicated through the ballot and just doing something else with it. We're going back to you with permission and saying, hey, we found a better use. We found a better priority for these dollars. Here's what we'd like to do, and getting your voter approval on it.
Okay. Would that be, how do I ask this the right way? Would that be easier to do if it were to do for one particular purpose?
Absolutely. So if I had just a wave of magic wand to do this, I'd put it undedicated, right?
Right.
And then we could shift it around in the budget as we needed. We know with Louisiana's history, with Baton Rouge history, trying to pass tax revenue without a dedication is a recipe for failure, right?
Right.
And so, yes, I think that you would have to dedicate it to a specific purpose, go to the voters and say, we're taking it from X and applying it to Y.
Is there a way to get the conversation to the point where we don't have to say with Louisiana's history and Baton Rouge's history? Because I feel like, okay, if we get undedicated to rededicate it for one particular thing, that's a short-term win. But a longer-term win is being able to give y'all in the Metro Council or the mayor's office or whomever the ability to be flexible from budget to budget and year to year to say that when Breck needs something new at a park, they can have more money at that time than when they're just maintaining a park. Or the library needs a new building, they get more money than when they're maintaining a building. And you can do it all without having to go back to just property taxes like we always see.
Yeah, I mean, that comes through leadership, right? It comes through electing the right people and having a track record of putting those budget priorities where they need to be. But I'll push back a little bit on the sentiment that it's only a short-term win. I think that if you're dedicating those dollars to public infrastructure, if you're dedicating those dollars to essential programming like maintenance of infrastructure, that type of thing, those are long-term wins, right? Because those are the nuts and bolts of what you need to have to run a great municipality. It's sort of the basic services.
That's fair. That's fair. But at the same time, though, like infrastructure is never going to be without, right? That's one
right.
where when you fix one road, another one's going to break. So it's not like there's ever a time where you're just done with infrastructure.
That's right. Yeah.
So
it's a constant reinvestment.
Yeah, no, that's a fair argument. We got Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson in with us. Okay, let's walk through the task force, the process, and what kind of time frame we're looking at on something like this.
Yeah, so time frame wise, I've heard probably about a year. It's supposed to be an exhaustive effort. There's a lot of different stakeholders involved, and we'll have to get Councilman Moak in here to go back through those. I don't remember who they all are, but it's stakeholders that have a vested interest in the services that are being provided, and that have the expertise level to go in and really do a good evaluation. So
it's just there's every year when the budget comes around, and I believe it was you were saying this back in December. Y'all were just going to vote on it to get it rolling forward and whatnot, because I feel like every year when the budget comes around, any argument that's made is moot by the time it's made. What we have is what we got. You get what you get. You don't pitch a fit, right? And when it comes to not discretionary spending is not the right word, but the money that the mayor's office or that the Metro Council can get at, it feels like, I don't know that it's shrinking, but definitely percentage wise, it's not where it needs to be.
Right. So that goes back to that general fund pressure that we see. You've heard me explain this ad nauseum on your show, but I'll do it again. So our budget is over $1 billion, but only about a third of it is general fund revenue, so undedicated revenue that we can shift around to different functions. And then of that 30%, about half of that, 55% or so, is used by first responders, so BRPD, Baton Rouge Fire, EMS, those types. And so whenever you see budget constraints, like we're in the process of dealing with now, that's the first place to get cut, and then you move to DPW, and then you move to other basic services. All of our basic services in city parishes, the services that you rely on for day-to-day life in a municipality, are funded through the general fund and subject to that pressure.
It feels like everything that's dedicated is things we want, and everything that's not dedicated is things we need.
That's a great way to think about it. Yeah.
So, I know I'm hesitating to ask the question because I already know the answer. But is there a way to reverse that course without having to uproot everything?
No.
Yeah.
No, you've got to go back to the voters and go through the process. And look, I'll give you an example. We talk a lot about libraries and that kind of thing, but a less political entity would be mosquito abatement, right? Mosquito abatement actually has a 3-year fund balance. So you could cut their funding today and they could operate full budget for 3 years.
Really?
That's after making a large investment in a very nice new building a few years ago. And then just recently last year, investing $5.5 million in a new helicopter. Right. And so when you look at that, you say, well, I've got a juvenile court building where they can't get in during a good rainstorm because of the flooding issue. The building is crumbling, ceiling tiles are falling, the ceiling's leaking. How do I justify that, right? How do I justify walking in to a mosquito abatement building that is the creme de la creme, which is good for them. It's not a bad thing to have a nice mosquito abatement building. But how do I justify that whenever I've got kids going through juvenile court proceedings, some of our most vulnerable youth ever in the parish, and we can't have a decent facility for those folks to operate in? It doesn't make sense, right?
No, it does not. Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson is our guest. We're talking about taking a deep dive into the city parish budget to find what money can be freed up and where. Okay, so walk me through what it would look like to undedicate something, because clearly you don't want to pillage the library. You don't want to pillage cats or Brack or anything like that. You just want a little bit coming back. What does that look like to rewrite? I mean, would you just be rewriting the way, rewriting the millages, rewriting the actual numbers within, and then rededicating them? Because at some point along the way, voters are going to say, where's my cut? Right.
So there's a couple of different ways that you can look at it, right? So, for instance, with the library, if you wanted to go in and just look at the portion of the tax dollars that is basically only going to fund balance, so not going to programming and not going to capital improvements, then that's one thing. But if you wanted to go in and curtail the way that the library operates, so look at hours of operation, look at number of facilities, that type of thing, you could do that as well and possibly generate some more dollars. Beyond that, simply going in and making sure that they're not collecting more than what is needed would be a huge win.
Yeah, no, I'm not even talking about curtailing any of the services. I'm not talking about cutting back on any of it. I'm talking about just making sure that on a balance sheet, you're never, it balances out to zero. It doesn't balance out to we have X amount of million just rolling over in the bank.
Yeah, even the frustrating thing about this process is that even when we talk about interest on dedicated taxes, so for instance, that 3 years of fund balance that's in the bank for mosquito abatement, we can't even take the interest from that money and spend it elsewhere in city parish. That has to stay in the bank. That even the interest stays in the bank for that entity to use. So it becomes a really frustrating process when, as a policymaker, you're sitting, looking at agencies that are hurting, that are having to freeze positions. You've got this pot of money that you could use if you had the ability to, but you can't.
Would it be, and this is going to sound stupid, but just walk down the path with me. Would it be possible to write into the individual departments of the individual entities, giving them the ability to push money around to other places because it was dedicated to them?
No, that would still take voter approval.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. And the other thing to mention, too, about this process, specifically on BREC, is that the East Baton Rouge Parish Metro Council is not the taxing authority for BREC. And so that would take some state authorization as well, state legislation, for us to be able to go in and do something with those.
Boy, that's a good point. That's easily overlooked and a good point.
Right, because that's one of the largest taxing entities that we have in the parish. A lot of dollars that could be freed up there, but I don't want people to think that they would be necessarily a part of the process. Or if you don't see them in an effort in the future, that's the reason why, is because we are not the taxing authority for them.
Yeah. And we got Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson with us for just a couple more minutes. And going back to the things we want versus things we need thing, it's just public safety needs to be at such a, on repeat and as loud as possible. It's like we have, I love the Goodwood Library. I would hate to be murdered in the parking lot of that library. It just, putting it in those terms, right?
Yeah.
But if you want to have a great city, you've got to have great public transportation. Okay, well, you can get shot at the bus stop. It's public safety needs to be on repeat all the time until we're not looking at 113 homicides over the year, and we're not looking at a billion case backlog over at the 19th JDC.
Right.
I don't know how to get past that. You said about a year for a timeline. In the meanwhile, is there a worry that this would hinder other efforts, specifically Hiller Moore's efforts? Is there a worry that this would hinder other efforts to get people where they need to be funding-wise?
No, I haven't heard that concern. Look, I expect Hiller to move forward with his proposal. He doesn't need Metro Council approval. He has taxing authority in and of himself because he's a constitutional office. Yeah. So, look, if Hiller is successful in passing that will free up about, I think, $8 million or so, $8 or $9 million in general fund dollars that we can take and use for different things like public safety or infrastructure maintenance. So ultimately, that would be additional revenue to use.
Last one for you, and because of the question I asked about, say, mosquito abatement, saying you need some money, I'll help you. We can't structure things that way. But what's the level of cooperation look like from individual entities? Because I know once you get your hands on the cash, it's going to be hard to let it go. Are you seeing cooperation coming from those other taxing entities?
To be frank, no, not currently. So the structure, the way it works for those entities is that their directors, their leadership is basically responsible to the board that appoints them and that they serve under. Mm-hmm. And so generally that's where their guidance comes from. They sort of operate as almost not an independent shop of City Parish, but they are a unit within City Parish that operates within and of themselves. So yes, we need to increase that level of participation. Everybody needs to have skin in the game to ultimately impact all the things that serve our constituents.
He is Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson. Thank you so much for a couple minutes
Anytime,
this morning. It's peeled back a couple more layers of that conversation, to be sure, and it's a conversation that is not going away, so we're going to have it again.
Anytime.
Hey, absolutely. We're coming up on 7:30 at Talk 107.3 FM. Time for us to check news. We'll check traffic. We will check weather as well. On the back end of that, Quentin Anthony Anderson is running for state senate. He is slated to join us next. We got to meet Quentin a little bit during the last election cycle. He ran for Congress. Obviously, that was a big swing. I'm not going to say it was a swing and a miss, but it was a big swing to be sure. So we'll talk about the state senate race next. Oh, man. I apologize.
Good, brother.
I'm not firing on all my cylinders this morning.
You did great.
So it's just taking a minute.
You have a great radio voice, too, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's taking a minute to get everything out. I'm coming off a cold and I'm doing a million things right now. Are you going to Washington Mardi Gras?
Nah. Are you going? Yeah, y'all have a show there, right?
Yeah.
I've never been, man. I need to go one year. It's just like a ball and stuff is not my thing. You know, like,
I don't stay for the ball.
Okay. You don't do all the fun stuff.
No, I go and I work hard for 2-3 days and then I come home.
Okay, so there's several council members that are like using their council budgets to go and that kind of thing. Because like I'm definitely not going to spend my own money to go, but
right.
And I don't do much travel for Metro Council. Do you think it's a worthy investment of public dollars to go to Washington Mardi Gras?
For Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, absolutely.
Okay.
To go to the ball on Saturday night, if you're already there, why not? Because it's not
Just
costing you more.
day.
But if you're making the most of your days more than your nights,
So there's
it
actual
absolutely is.
professional development and stuff that's happening there Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
Friday? Okay.
Yeah, I recommend. It's obviously too late for this
Yeah,
year.
sure,
Everything's sold out. But yeah, it's you get talk to Adam now. He'd probably be the best one to tell you. Like it's because Brack's standpoint. And Lord Molson is obviously at Brack now, but like Adam can explain to you. Brack puts on a great party on Thursday evening right before the big party.
Okay.
But it's before that. Every meeting room in the Washington Hilton has something going on as far as like some of it's crew-based stuff, but a lot of it's like Lamoga will have a meeting with such and such, and Riverboat captains will have a meeting, and like
Okay. All right.
it's
And they're
all
talking about
around
real
the state.
issues.
Yeah, oh yeah.
All right. Yeah, actually, so Jen Rocket made that exact same argument.
Jen Rocket was there last year, so was Lori.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right, brother.
yeah,
Appreciate you.
later. Which, by the way, Dwight, that's exactly why I take my show there. Well, let me see if Quentin's here. That's exactly why I take my show there.
Yeah.
Because of the misconception that it's nothing but a party.
Yeah.
And for me, my biggest thing, I have a strong preseason through the legislative session. I knew it.
Yeah, shout out to Joe. Called in. No, it's all good. He's like, man, I never do this, man. He said, but I'm from down there. And I was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah, man. It's cool. Nah, he was cool about it. He was really cool.
737 Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane, rolling right along. Quentin Anthony Anderson running for state senate. He's actually en route right now to the building, and will be joining us in just a little bit. Right now, though, let's get your forecast. Here's Emma Kate Cowan. Yeah. As soon as he gets here, I'm going to send you down. I'm going to do my Mulhearn's live as well. But first, let's correct the record. Coming up on 738 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP, 48 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge, which I just stepped outside, and it's absolutely perfect. At 48, like, it's, I can order that up, dial that up for sure. Hey, man, I made a boo-boo a little while ago, John. We were talking about sending the Bella Baton Rouge downriver.
Yeah.
And, look, I told you at the beginning of the show, I'm cloudy, I'm foggy in my head this morning, right? Yeah. And I don't know how I confused Gibson with Gramercy. But that I don't know how.
It's okay.
Oh man, and this is your neck of the woods too.
It is, but the thing is, I feel the same way. The show moves at such a pace. I think it's different, when you're listening, but when you're actually producing, you're moving along, and it's just like you miss certain things, and it's like, wait,
yeah.
But by the time you think about it, you're on break or you're doing something else, and it's just but it's an afterthought.
Gibson's down, and okay, so here's the back end of the story. Is that part of our trending stories this morning? Is that the Bella Baton Rouge is packing up and moving on, and our riverfront's looking pretty dadgum naked right now. But within talking back and forth about that story, John had included that it's being sent down to Gibson to be scrapped for recycled parts. Is that basically what we're looking at?
Yep.
And I don't know why I had Gramercy in my head when you said that. I mean, they both start with a G, but that's about the only connection they've got.
It's all good. But you're right. I should have even corrected
this. It was my screw up to begin with.
Still.
You can't be around to mop up my mess. But yeah, I
shout out to the caller Joe who called in.
Which, by the way, as the words were coming out of my mouth, I felt like I was right. And then as soon as we got in break, I'm like, there was nothing at all right about that. That was completely like I.
But by that time, I moved on to other things, and I'm
right.
And so
trying to count 30 days from Jimmy Carter's death to see if the flag needs to be a half step. Anyway, my apologies, and anybody who's from Gibson, sorry to have misplaced you temporarily, but you're now back in Terrebonne Parish. Hey, Quentin's on his way right now, and will hopefully be here in very short order. While I do have a moment, need to tell you about the folks over at Mulhearn's. It's carnival time, y'all. Oh, man, I went to Mulhearn's the other night. I was working the coaches show, Matt McMahon show for basketball on Monday night. And, of course, if I'm working LSU at night, I'm stopping into Mulhearn's to grab myself a quick little dinner. Went to go grab a poke bowl. Keep it kind of healthy, a little bit healthy there. And, of course, while I'm in there, I got a good look at the Mardi Gras tree is out, and the giant king cake display is out underneath it, and they got them all, y'all. They've got traditional. They've got them filled. They got the filled with the cream cheese, filled with the strawberry, filled with the Bavarian, and then they get fancy on you. The Cookie Monster, the wedding cake, they've got you covered over at Mulhearn's. By the way, skip past the king cake. If you're attending a Mardi Gras ball and you to bring some food with you, like, you bring a tray of sandwiches for the table, check out Mulhearns.com, the newly revamped Mulhearns.com. They've got more than 50 different party trays to choose from on their catering menu. I would go boudin balls. You can't go wrong with boudin balls at a Mardi Gras ball, right? You bring the boudin balls, it's just, you pop them. They're easy. Easy peasy. You don't have to sit down with a big plate or whatever. You want to, grab one and hit the dance floor. You grab one and hit the dance floor. You come back and grab another one later on. Now, we've covered king cakes. We've covered the Mardi Gras ball. Let's go ahead and talk about the parade itself, the parades themselves. The downtown routes, Mulhearn's is right on the route. Orion, Artemis, Mulhearn has got you covered. They're nestled in between 3rd and 4th Street. When the parade turns around by the Capitol and comes up 4th right there, past the State Library, past the State Museum, another block up, that's where you're going to find Mulhearn's downtown. So when you hit the parade route, if there's anything you forgot, anything you run out of, they've got you covered there as well. It's Mulhearn's. Man, I tell you what, let's flip the order on this over because, I want to flip this around. Here's what we're going to do. You give me an out time for meeting up with Your Money Now. I apologize, y'all. We got a guest who's en route.
I got you.
Give me an out time and we'll break it early. But right now, though, let's just go ahead and cover what we're going to cover in our next segment here, freeing up that segment to get Quentin in here. All right. We're talking about the homeless people in New Orleans and how they're being moved to a transitional center ahead of the Super Bowl and Mardi Gras. There's a couple legislators down that way that they're concerned about the process and concerned about the potential outcomes. Matthew Willard is one. He says the biggest issue is that Governor Landry and Gosep never contacted him about their plans.
The lack of communication with city leaders, with the state legislators who actually represent that area, with the families in the area, with the neighborhood associations in the area, is very concerning.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, Matthew Willard, but you have the problem. This brings up an age-old question. If someone is doing a very poor job at their job, should you really lean on them for advice when you're coming in to clean up their mess? Willard notes that the fenced-in facility in an industrial area off of France Road, I believe it's out in Gentilly. It's nowhere near Gibson, that's for sure. Off France Road is across the street from it's across the street from Gentilly. Even though there's a concrete wall separating the neighborhood from the roadway.
We really need some guarantees that the quality of life for the people living near that site on France Road will not have the quality of their lives disrupted.
See, there he's got a good argument. Because when you're moving them to a transitional center, you haven't solved the problem, you've just relocated it. Adding to that, Willard notes the facilities within close proximity to a pair of schools.
If you walk a little bit more up the street, then you will encounter Southern University of New Orleans. And then if you walk a little bit further up, you'll encounter the University of New Orleans.
See, all right. There's not going to be a perfect solution for this. And obviously, time is of the essence. My biggest concern about the whole thing is that we're treating people like cattle. The hope is that as a transitional center, you're able to get everybody under one roof at one time and put them in contact with family. And you're not going to solve every problem under that roof. You're not going to make every homeless person housed. And that's just, I understand that. And there's going to be a lot of sad stories along the way. But if you can grab a couple of folks and put them back in touch with family, put them back on a path to not living under an interstate overpass, you're doing good work. By the way, Willard and State Senator Joe Bowie issued a statement saying they have reached out to the governor's office to request details of the plan. Side note, if you're looking to pitch people on, we don't want to move it there because it's within proximity of a school, use an elementary school. Don't use a university. That's the image that gets in your head is like we're putting a bunch of people who have been living under an interstate in close proximity with kids, people who might not be mentally stable, might have addiction problems. Don't try to sell me on UNO. Find an elementary school to pitch. There's got to be one in Gentilly, right? Time being of the essence is probably the biggest factor in this equation, though. They need to get this done before the Super Bowl gets here. So, I tell you what, John, let's just go ahead and take the break right here. And we'll free up a full 10 minutes on the back end. And, we'll take the break. If we can meet Your Money Now, we'll meet Your Money Now. If not, we'll have to skip it for this hour. Quentin Anthony Anderson running for state senate. He's up next. Last time, not this time. All right. We're just going to come right back in. Oh, yeah. Yep. You're very welcome. No, you're my first call. No, you're my. Seven 750 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. Coming in on two wheels. He's coming in hot, y'all. Quentin Anthony Anderson running for state senate. Welcome back. How are you, man?
I'm good. Probably feeling a little, I said earlier, maybe a little delusional since I'm right back at it.
Hang on. Why? Why is that delusional?
Well, I think that there is sometimes a sense of banging your head up against a brick wall, especially here in Baton Rouge with Baton Rouge politics. It is not as easy as simply being the best candidate or talking about the issues most in depth. It's not a meritocracy. There's a lot of other nonsense involved. And so the fact that I'm signing up for it, 2 months after my last race is a little bit.
Your last race, you were swinging big.
Yeah.
I mean, that was your was it your first time out?
No, I did run for Metro Council. In fact, we had chat.
That's right. That's right.
During COVID.
But to jump from there up to Congress, it's a big swing, a big ask to be sure. So this is probably a little more the right wheelhouse here, right?
Well, it is certainly more affordable relative to travel. I was traveling 220 miles for the last year. So this is a little bit easier. It's my neighborhood. It's my community. But I, as I've told people, I actually don't think that the jobs that I've applied for are that much different. I mean, I think the scale is a little different, but at the end of the day, it's about representing a constituency, putting kind of yourself behind your community and representing them on a whole host of issues that come across.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. No, I agree on that front. I would push back saying that in Congress, being part of that 435, the 434 have to like you back.
Yeah.
So that's an easier sell across town than it is in Washington, D.C.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I just you talk about some of the nonsense. That's some of the nonsense that goes beyond just issues, beyond just the people you're representing and whatnot. So let's rewind the clock. Just act as if you've never been here before. Quentin Anthony Anderson. Let's get to know you a little bit. Tell the folks about who you are and why you're running for state senate.
Okay. Well, I'm Quentin Anthony Anderson. I'm a proud graduate of McKinley Senior High School. Left Baton Rouge just for 4 years to avoid running into my mom at Walmart during college, so I went to Louisiana Tech, but then came back and got my law degree from LSU. Most of my career, I've been a nonprofit advocate, so I've been the communications director for organizations like Together Baton Rouge, Together Louisiana. I've worked with groups like Power Coalition, Vote. I have my own small business where I do graphic design, web design. That's one of the reasons why my materials look like I have a bigger campaign budget than I actually do. But pretty much my whole career has largely just been about service. I've never really sought the bigger paycheck. I've always just kind of seen the potential in the world around me and thought, you know what, I think I'm talented. I think I'm smart. Maybe I could apply my gifts to making the world around me a little bit better of a place.
Making the world around you a little bit better of a place within Senate District 14. Senate District 14. Let's talk about that race in particular and what makes 14 unique. What makes 14 tell me about the makeup of the district and what it needs.
Yeah, so one, I think the reason why it's special, and I think everybody always says that their district is like the heart of wherever they live, but I think that District 14 really is an important district. It encompasses Southern University, downtown, LSU, so some pretty big tax assets. When you think of Baton Rouge, a lot of the sort of iconography of Baton Rouge is in District 14. I think that the needs are disparate. I think that there are places where investment has kind of been disproportionately allocated, and then there are places where it is extraordinarily impoverished. There are places where the crime rate probably is a larger part of the broader city crime rate because of how bad it is in certain parts of the district. So I think that the needs are disparate, but I think the commonality is that people have felt for a long time that their representation has looked past them, that it's almost used their constituency as a way of advancing a broader agenda. Oftentimes, it's this district where bad stuff gets placed when legislative deals are being made, and then good stuff gets placed in other places. And it's often been because voters will vote for the same politicians in districts like this. And over time, they don't expect those politicians to deliver. They just sort of expect them to show up around Election Day. And so they kind of get used to getting the crap end of deals.
We got Quentin Anthony Anderson with us running for State Senate District 14. So disparate, which, by the way, I love that word. It's underused. Disparate. When it comes to the individual needs, though, you talk about some of the impoverished areas. How can you help as a state senator?
Well, I think there are a few things. I do want to be clear. I'm running as a Democrat, and so I'd be running going into a legislature where the Democrats are in the super minority. Mm-hmm. So in many cases, and it's not the most desirable position to be in, but in many cases what you're doing is you're fighting against bad things. You're fighting against, putting a tire shredder in the district, whereas you might get something better in another district, and that's part of the legislative deal. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of the biggest priority right now, as long as Democrats are in the super minority, which they're very comfortable with. They like being in the super minority. So fighting against the bad.
You have to be judged on results.
You
just have to be judged on how loud you are.
Well, that's politics. Politics
I know,
performative,
but it's a nice little safety blanket to be able to say, yeah, of course I didn't get anything done. I don't have the votes, but look how loud I am in favor of what you want.
Well, and increasingly you're not even getting that from Louisiana Democrats. I think that, look, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you should always want there to be a competent, loyal opposition party, because that's what keeps everybody honest.
Oh, yeah.
Any place that I've ever been where you have single party rule, you also have quite a bit of corruption. And when the other party just lays down, I mean, people talked about this for years in California with the Republican Party. When the other party just sort of lays down, the corruption runs rampant. Right. And so one of the things that I've had to talk about both in this campaign and in the last campaign is that, there has to be a certain degree of fight on the part of the Democratic Party, not just for the constituents that vote for us, but also for the broader populace, to make sure that bad bills that the Republicans might introduce don't go so far as to take advantage of our constituencies. So I think that in many cases, I'm going to advance policies like raising the minimum wage, but I'm also realistic. I am up against unfavorable numbers. I'm going to try to do things like invest in our public schools because I do see a growing movement towards defunding our public schools. But again, often what I'm going to be doing is mitigating bad policy. I'm not, until Democrats get their act together and actually want to be in the majority, actually want to elect a governor, which I have not seen any indication that they have any interest in doing either of those. Often what you're going to be doing is just kind of fighting the good fight and hoping at the end of the day that something that was going to be really, really bad is just really bad.
Not the rosiest of pictures from Quentin Anthony Anderson. You led with the word delusional.
Yeah.
How tough is it to run this race when right at the block you're biting the hand that feeds you? You are running as a Democrat, but at the same time, I hear you holding Democrats to task more than I do Republicans.
I guess you gotta hold the people you love accountable. I don't even know if love is the best word. In a perfect world, I would love to be an independent, to be completely honest with you. But I think that the Democratic Party won. In a two-party system, it's very difficult to get elected when you're not a member of a party. When you run as an independent, you end up running against both parties and all of the interests that they have in maintaining power. And so, practically speaking, I'm a Democrat. But I think what's most necessary is making sure that the Democratic Party actually lives up to the values that it says that it does, as opposed to the values that it actually follows when it's behind closed doors. I think that if there's any fight that is at least winnable in the next 2 years, it's that, trying to get the Democratic Party to actually be the party that it says that it is.
We got about a minute and a half left. I really want to address the campaign side of this because we're talking about a microwave campaign, much shorter than your last stint out. So how do you, of course, you less geography to cover as well. So how do you approach this campaign in contrast to the last one?
I think I have some advantages. I mean, I'm the only candidate that's been campaigning for the last year, and it's been an overlap, right?
Yeah.
So it overlapped with this district. I campaigned in the Metro Council during COVID, so that was also a part of this district. So there's the familiarity. But it's going to be just making sure that I get my message out there. We're knocking on doors. We've almost knocked on 5,000 doors so far. Hopefully we can get to the 10,000 door mark in a few days. That is the goal, though, is just to get the message out, do it the old-fashioned way, not take money from illicit means or illicit sources, and just try to bring our message to the people and hope that that resonates.
He is Quentin Anthony Anderson. Not your last time in before Election Day. We'll get you on one more time before that to be absolutely sure. But I appreciate you hopping in today. Yes, absolutely. Love having you on. Quentin Anthony Anderson running for state senate. Okay, we got a break. ABC News coming your way. Hour 3's coming up next. Why do we not have a film and entertainment museum in Louisiana? Patrick Mulhearn will be by at 8:15 with that. Right now, here's ABC. Dog it.
Is that true? We don't have a film in
Like a Hollywood South museum?
Yeah.
No. We had a couple music ones around the state, but they suck. So.
Who runs the thing on 3rd Street?
4th, Capitol Park?
No. You know the place I'm talking about. The film and it's like that little. It's like in the middle next to like across from Schlitz and Giggles, kind of. And it always has like film equipment, but it says that it's like a film.
TV station.
That's all that it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that it was like a.
It's like a public access TV station.
Okay. Huh. Well, I don't know. There hasn't been a whole lot of enthusiasm behind supporting our film industry here in the last few years.
And the opposition is loud. Those of us who understand it as an industry, those of us who understand it as jobs, are making all the right moves to ensure it sticks around.
I hope so. Because I think some people thought that it was like a luxury thing, but like when a lot of these productions came down, some of the stipulations were that you had to hire the local talent and things like that, and otherwise those folks have to leave because there's just not a lot of opportunity here.
The best way to solve that is to have movies or TV shows filmed in the districts that are opposed to it. Because,
so that they can see the benefit?
And speaking as a Republican, and by the way, as a Republican, if I can't take my house to task, I don't belong as a Republican.
Yeah, I believe that, yeah.
But I wasn't giving you shit.
No, I appreciate it.
You're 100% right. Yeah. It's biblical. How can I remove the splinter from my neighbor's side before I remove the light from my own? Oklahoma
Mhm.
was completely against the film tax credit. And then that movie about the Crawdad Sings
Yeah.
pumped so much money into his district.
I think it's
He's like,
perception.
oh, I see the balance sheet now.
I think it's
I
perception.
visibly see the balance sheet now.
I think it's really easy just to kind of be like, oh, it's that Hollywood stuff. These aren't real jobs. And all right, whatever. You know,
Well, because
if it
when
pays
people
the
start
bills.
talking about the jobs that go along with it, they start talking about like catering services.
Yeah,
It's no, we're talking about graphics.
it's
we're
a lot.
Talking about editors. We're talking.
I mean,
about,
it's a whole industry that you are supporting by, but you know,
right. But you and everybody assumes that if you take the tax credit away, the movies will still come. They don't.
No, you saw that.
They go to Georgia
Yep.
and they go to Canada.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I mean, you especially because of the proximity. I mean, it's not even like we could just make the argument that, well, like where else are you going to go? I mean, Georgia's right next door. Yeah. Much appreciated, brother.
no,
Always.
my pleasure always.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I'm trying. This is we'll see. There's more support than there was before. And Baton Rouge is a place where if you chop a couple times, all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, you did run a couple times. I got you this time. So we'll see.
Is Cleo making an endorsement in this one?
Oh, is he?
Oh, has he already?
No, yeah. So he's endorsed Larry.
I
Larry
figured.
Sellers. But not only that, like some people were even concerned because he's leaning very heavy. The word is as much as he wants Larry, he most certainly does not want me because there's a whole bunch of stuff. But he's concerned particularly about redistricting, who's in this seat. But a lot of these seats, particularly with Democrats, they are not like the people who occupy them are not the principals. They are simply conduits for jobs, for contracts, for appointments, for regulatory favors, things like that. So the more independent you are, the less attractive you are because what they want is, I need those deals to keep going. So what Cleo has said to folks is, if Larry gets elected, everything that was the case still remains the case. Nothing else changes. In effect, Cleo remains the state senator while also occupying.
That's only great if you're wealthy.
Or if you're in his circle.
Well, same thing. Yeah.
Well, he keeps some broke folks around too because they become even more desperate because they're reliant on him. I call him the de facto Democratic Party chair because the party is broke and so it is controlled by the people that can write checks.
That party is very broke, and I've had it not confirmed, but talk with Landry's top people.
Yeah.
How Cleo got his job, how Cleo got his district. It's insane.
Yeah.
And I don't know why more Republicans aren't pissed about it.
I think they can see the party imploding, the Democratic Party imploding, and they're not going to stop. Like, why would you stop it?
I don't mean in Louisiana.
Oh.
I mean congressionally.
Because at the national level, they don't care about the local bullshit as long as you are voting consistently on national issues. If you're a consistent vote, they don't care. I will say that the Republican Party is easier for crazies to be able to win primaries because it's not as machine controlled, and so you can get those folks that
Yes.
don't understand policy. They just kind of understand like a caricature of it, and they get there and they just kind of.
But they give the rest of us the worst reputation. So, all right, let me get back in it. We'll talk soon. 806 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. That was worth the wait. I'm sorry. Look, there are people that I'm going to disagree with politically all day long that I want to talk to all day long. Quentin Anthony Anderson is one of those people. We don't endorse candidates around here. That's just not what we do. We're an open forum for every candidate in every race. By the way, there are 2 other candidates in that state Senate race, and I will be efforting to get both of them on before Election Day. Larry Selders is in there, and so is Carolyn Hill. But Quentin is he's just there's no BS there. He's young and independent and wide-eyed and idealistic and energetic, and he's the type of person that even if you're going to disagree with him politically, you want him active because you know where his heart is. Clearly, in listening to him, you know where his mind is, but you know where his heart is as well. So that's that was fun. All right, we got busy third hour coming your way. Patrick Mulhearn joining us about 10 minutes from right now. The folks from LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency, going to be in later on this hour. Right now, though, we start you off with this day in history. All right, John.
All right. Hey, speaking of political parties, today in 1870, the donkey was first used as a symbol of the Democratic Party.
Really?
Yeah.
Who picked that?
That's an even better question.
You know, I always wonder because like animals have different meanings at different times.
Right.
Like a goat used to be someone you blame. Now goat is an acronym for the greatest of all time. The bald eagle is America's bird, but Ben Franklin wanted to be the turkey. You know?
Yeah.
A donkey is an ass, but it's also a workhorse. Like it's also,
exactly.
to be worked. There's so many different meanings at different times that I don't know how you pick an animal that's going to have staying power.
Yeah, it might be worth looking into. I might have to do that. A little deep dive there.
There you go.
Hey, 1892, you might like this, Brian. Basketball rules were first published in a Triangle magazine written by James Naismith.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so the
Man, I
rules of
love basketball so much. So last night, coaching a Mercy third grade team. We got 4 Mercy third grade teams. We got shellacked by St. Aloysius last night. It wasn't pretty, but I'm watching these kids as they start to get the game, they start to understand the game.
Yeah.
And then I come home and I'm watching LSU, and of course, I turn down the sound of the TV, and I have the LSU Sports mobile app, so I'm listening to Chris Blair and John Brady on the call, and I don't think we know how blessed we are to have those two as a pair on the call. And I know I work over there, and I'm a little bit biased, but last night I was not at work. I was home listening, and I'm like thoroughly enjoying.
And that age, I mean, coaching those kids, it's not about winning,
the third
right?
graders?
Yeah.
No,
you're
not about
watching
winning.
them, right?
Okay, here's what I tell the parents at the beginning of the season, all right?
Yep.
And I get pushed back from some parents sometimes, but if you're concerned about winning in third grade, you're going to peak in fourth. I don't want that. I want more than that for your kid. It's the number one thing is I want them to love basketball for the rest of their lives.
Hey, keeping it sports related, 1942, U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt sends his famed green light letter to MLB Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis, encouraging baseball to continue playing during World War II.
Yeah.
So, keeping it sports theme right there.
Has there ever been a better commissioner's name than Kennesaw Mountain Landis?
I know, right?
I'm a little disappointed I didn't give my son the middle name Mountain.
Hey, 1943, that following year, world's largest office building, the Pentagon, is completed to house the U.S. military.
Ooh.
So that happened. 1973, U.S. President Richard Nixon suspends all U.S. offensive action in North Vietnam.
Okay.
74, TV sitcom Happy Days premieres.
Ooh.
Begins its 11-year run on ABC.
Okay.
What about Wikipedia? We've all used it. Well, this day in 2001, it was launched by Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger.
Yep.
Also, 2009. I don't want to butcher this last name here. Chelsea Sullenberger?
Sullenberger. Sully. Yeah. Played by Tom Hanks in the movie.
That's true, yeah.
Yep. That really happened. It wasn't just a movie. That really happened.
I've never watched it.
Oh.
I feel I should though. I want to say I don't want to make assumptions here, but I want to say it might have been filmed here in Louisiana, right? Weren't there certain scenes? I don't remember.
No, I don't. You're thinking of a different Tom Hanks movie.
Maybe. Toy Story. No, I'm kidding. All right.
Was that it for the events?
Yeah. How about you had anything else?
Today was the anniversary of the first Super Bowl.
Oh, really?
Yep.
What year was that?
Do what? 1967.
67.
Yep.
Hey, speaking of Super Bowls today, birthdays. Drew Brees today.
Yes.
Starting with that one. Let's see who else we got here. Look at this, Ben Shapiro today as well. Hey, you remember Skrillex?
Yeah.
It's his birthday today.
I feel like you're misprioritizing here.
I'm
Keep
sorry.
going.
You know what? You know what it is?
Yeah.
Like Drake, I started from the bottom.
Yeah.
And as I work my way up, the number one here, Martin Luther King Jr.
Let's go ahead and start with Martin Luther King Jr.
Let's start
please.
with Martin Luther King Jr.
Actually born on January 15th.
That is my apologies.
We will, honor his birthday coming up on Monday.
Yes, indeed.
But no. Born today.
That was not intentional. I'm the bottom, literally the bottom of my list. I scroll up and I'm like, oh.
Martin Luther King never got New Orleans a Super Bowl. Right.
All right.
Drew Brees did.
I figured it was a good
Is that
segue.
where you're at here?
Yeah, I figured it was a good segue.
I can't get your back on Skrillex, but I can on Drew Brees. Skrillex.
Oh, man. So, to my defense, it was at the bottom.
I got you.
If you take offense to that, I apologize.
No. Keep going. Who else you got?
Let's see. Who else do I have? Look at Pitbull on here. Oh, man.
Oh, God, you're kidding me. Seriously?
I'm dead serious.
Pitbull and Martin Luther King share a birthday.
Hey, what about Regina Hall?
Okay, yeah, sure.
There we go.
Huh?
Anybody else on your end?
Yeah, I got a couple more. Here we go.
Okay.
They're both from the world of sports, the last two that I've got. Another former New Orleans Saint, former center, Steve Court, and 49ers wide receiver, Deebo Samuel.
All right. Moving on to birthdays here. Rocky Johnson, Dwayne Johnson's father.
Wait, we were doing birthdays.
Deaths, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Deaths. Sorry,
You're good.
Jumping the gun.
Yep.
Yeah, let's see who else we got. Cranberry singer, Dolores O'Riordan.
O'Riordan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other deaths today?
Yeah, actress Carol Channing died on this day in 2019, and gangster Meyer Lansky in 1983.
Okay. All right. Moving on to national days here. National Pothole Day.
Okay.
Yep.
We'll deal
Just
with
kind
that.
of shed some light on that. Let's get some potholes fixed. Of course, Wikipedia Day as well today.
Yeah. So it's also, like you said, the Miracle on the Hudson.
Yep.
So we get that, and then National Day. Nope, mine says National Bagel Day, but that happens 17 other times during the year. So we're moving on. It's 8:14 to Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Has traffic been abnormally bad this morning? Because we've got another guest who's running long. Patrick Mulhearn's almost here. The text just says close. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk film, entertainment, Hollywood South next.
Ooh, shit. Let's see.
Hey, good morning. Doing very well. How are you?
Day by day.
That's about, yeah. I've been fighting, like last week I had the crud, and this week I'm just a fog. So, yeah. Yeah.
I'm no rush and I don't need a lot of time.
All good. 8:35 to 8:50 is what we got written down. It's actually 8:38 to 8:50, but it's a good 12 minutes. Is it just you today? Okay. Yeah, of course. Let me go let Patrick in the building.
Oh, okay.
Is that what it was? Oh, yeah.
All right, how you doing? Good to see you.
Oh, yeah. Oh? Turn the mics off? Oh. And then you add so you got the logistics of where the shows are, the guests that are going to be on the shows, and then you add to that, like I handled all the sales and all. So, where are you staying? There's a sweet little secret going on. There's an Airbnb that's right across the street. You know the underground parking lot that's in the back of the Hilton? Right across the street from there, there's an Airbnb. I pay for all 3 nights, with the folks in the Hilton pay for 1 night. And I don't have to wait half an hour on the elevator. Now I am going to have to go out into 18-degree temperatures to get back to my Airbnb, but that's.
I was there. You're the giant snowstorm.
Oh, I'm jealous of that. I heard that was awesome. I heard ran the place out of liquor.
Got stuck there a couple of extra days. Yeah.
819 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. So, bumping around social media not too long ago, and come across, I believe it was on LinkedIn, where Patrick Mulhearn was talking about a Hollywood South museum, a film and entertainment museum. And I got the ball rolling here. We've seen exhibits at the Capitol Park Museum, for sure, but why not something dedicated specifically to that? Every time a movie's been filmed in Louisiana, what critic doesn't say, the backdrop of the state plays its own character? And, it's legit. It's a thing. We are a thing. So why don't we have it? Joining us now to talk about it is Patrick Mulhearn. How are you, man? How you been?
Good morning, Brian. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. How's things been lately?
I'm cautiously optimistic.
Okay. Over at the Capitol Park Museum, the Billy Cannon exhibit's open.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic.
You saw it, right?
I did. I went on opening night. Saw it. It was bigger and better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was prepared to be underwhelmed, and I was not. I was overwhelmed by it. It was awesome. And Billy Cannon, there's also going to be a movie in the works.
It is indeed.
Just another film filmed in Louisiana, about Louisianans. And so I saw your post about this, and I'm like, we need to start having this conversation because this should be a thing. What are your ideas for a Hollywood South Museum?
Well, okay, so I'll take you back. So back when I was at Celtic, I met a man named Ed Poole. His wife, Susan Poole. I don't know if you've ever met this gentleman, but this is the ultimate historian on Louisiana film. When I say that, he has this collection of posters. I mean, I think he was actually trying to collect a poster from every film that ever shot in Louisiana.
Oh, good luck with that.
Going back to like Tarzan of the Apes in 1917 when it shot in Terrebonne Parish, whatever. But my point was that he's such an expert on this on the subject of film in Louisiana. I mean, in his poster collection, like Sotheby's and all these like auction houses come to Ed to find out what posters are worth and to know the history on these posters, right? But he had no place to put them, right? Okay. And so he said, like, I wish we had a place, a museum or something for all these, right? But let's take it one step further. Think about really, we're talking 1,300 films since the tax credits came out over 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking like props and costumes and wardrobe, all that good stuff, right? A lot of it ends up in dumpsters. And that's the God's honest truth, and that because we are not hanging on to these things. Look, we had 6 films nominated for Best Picture in a span of 6 years?
Really?
Yeah. And we had 2 that actually won, 12 Years a Slave and Green Book, right?
Yeah.
We have another one, I think, this year that is going to get Nickel Boys. I think it's going to get nominated for Best Picture, right?
Okay.
What are we doing to hang on to all this stuff? We're not. That's the problem. And it's not for a lack of want. I've talked to Lieutenant Governor Nungesser. He there's a desire there.
Yeah.
But I think that we need somebody to really step up and make this happen. And also think that this is a solution to something else, which is that we just need more cool stuff in downtown Baton Rouge.
I agree with this as well. This would be an attraction, to be sure. It wouldn't just be a place to put a bunch of stuff like a storage locker. This would be an attraction. I would go visit something like this on a regular basis because there are more films that have been filmed here than you could ever, like you said, 1,300 since the film tax credit.
Yeah.
Now, not all of them were good.
No, we don't want to.
No, not all of them were of that level of Santa Jaws. But there have been plenty of really, really, really good movies made here on all fronts. Whether you talk about Battleship, what was the one with that had Rihanna? Was that Battleship?
Yeah, sure,
Battleship.
Yeah. Twilight.
We had Twilight here. But we also had the Dukes of Hazzard. We also had Pitch Perfect. But what I'm saying is it spans this range, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's just kind of across the board. And it's not just since the film tax credit. Let's rewind the clock all the way back to you mentioned Tarzan. How about Live and Let Die? Yeah. I mean, we're now in the James Bond world.
I mean, JFK in the 90s, Steel Magnolias. Look, we have this rich film history. There's no question about it. But we also have people, too. Think about it. Britney Spears is from here, right? Even think about the Duck Dynasty guys. That was one of the biggest shows on the planet for a while. Mm-hmm. Tyler Perry's from New Orleans. The list goes on and on. We're doing nothing to preserve and celebrate that, I guess is my point.
Right.
And that if we did, people would pay to come see it. Don't just make it just a museum. Make it a Hall of Fame. We've got some big names of people who have, even Reese Witherspoon is from New Orleans. Did you know that? So,
I did know that. Yeah. Moved to Memphis very, very young, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Memphis she moved to very, very young?
Yeah.
Was she from New Orleans or Baton Rouge? I know it's Louisiana.
I think New Orleans.
Okay.
But I think, and you got, I don't know what the qualifier is. So for example, Steven Soderbergh. Steven Soderbergh was born in Atlanta, but he grew up here in Baton Rouge.
Right.
Between.
I would say that, what would be a good qualifier here is the same one that Ronnie Rance uses over at the Sports Hall of Fame.
Which is?
Well, you either born here or played ball here for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Like if they went to LSU, like Shaq, not originally from Louisiana, but definitely Sports Hall of Fame.
Certainly.
So I would probably, if you're building out a Hall of Fame as well, an entertainment Hall of Fame, I would lean on the Sports Hall of Fame to see what kind of comps and side by side you could say, you use that, let's use that same parameter here.
I think you just made your way onto the Hall of Fame Board of Directors, Brian.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. A guy who's in the news this week, John Goodman.
Yes, absolutely. He should be in there.
Yeah.
Have his own exhibit.
He lost his home in the wildfires.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he sure did.
Yeah.
Lost his home in the wildfires. But I would consider him one of Louisiana's adopted sons.
Absolutely.
Married a girl from Bogalusa.
No question.
That qualifies you even more than being born here. You married a girl from Bogalusa.
Yeah.
That's we got Patrick Mulhearn in with us. Okay, so location wise, you and me, we're obviously biased, but I'm thinking downtown Baton Rouge.
There's no question. Do you remember Kip Holden's big Alive initiative?
Audubon Alive.
Yeah. An entertainment district. This entertainment district is not a bad idea at all for Baton Rouge, right? And look, just let's face it, people love entertainment.
Yes.
I'm a living testament to it that people get kind of crazy about movies, and I think that, again, it can be multiple things. It's not just a museum and a Hall of Fame. It's a performance venue. this is a place where you can go watch live music, again, this doesn't have to be just about film. This should be about our musicians as well. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that let's have theaters there. Look, we have the Manship Theater, which is amazing, but we need more. We need more theaters downtown.
Okay, we got Patrick Mulhearn in with us. We're talking about the potential of a film and entertainment, a Hollywood South Museum, but a film and entertainment Hall of Fame as well. All right, so if we're just dreaming here, I'm trying to find the location in downtown. We're
Where was it originally? Was it going to be down by the almost the Hollywood Casino? Am I wrong on that? Or
Ought to been alive.
yeah.
So riverfront in between Hollywood Casino, working back towards downtown,
Okay.
back towards the heart of downtown.
Yeah.
Was where. So you're talking about a full-on build out.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. No, I don't think I'm just a repurpose on something. I mean, I think that you make this thing first class if you're going to do it. Do it right. You know.
Okay, I'm on board with this completely because it's. You look at start by let's see where the Pentagon barracks are.
Yeah.
Parallel that, right? Just cross the tracks from there,
Right.
and work your way up towards Hollywood Casino. Although,
I remember the artist rendering I saw had it hanging out over the river, right?
yes,
I mean,
which that's a must as
How
well.
cool would that be? You know.
But that was part water campus stuff too, because that water campus grew out of that separately.
Yeah.
But I mean, the same land is still there, as far as where we were with Ought to Been Alive. Now, to me, this feels like it would be a little bit bigger scale.
I think so.
So I
Good question. I don't know. I'm not an architect, not an engineer, but look, there's some really brilliant people here in this town who can figure this out. And I do think that they are doing some sort of study right now.
Okay.
For a proposal for some sort of entertainment district, right? So if they're
Yes.
listening, talk to me. I'll tell you all my crazy
yes,
ideas.
and the next person to talk to about this would be Rolf McAllister.
He
I
is
had
the
him on a
champion.
couple weeks
That's
ago,
right.
and he actually brought up Ought to Been Alive. I had him on a couple weeks ago. We talked about that. But this would be, to me, and even better than Ought to Been Alive. As much as I was on board with that, there were still some iffy questions as to who's going to show up. If you take Film and Entertainment, Film and Music Hall of Fame,
Right.
Hollywood South Museum, add a performance venue to it,
I think it's the anchor
Yes.
for this entertainment district. I'm not saying that you can't have some sort of Audubon, animal type thing or whatever, but hey, just have something for families and people to come see.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm on board with this. All right, where do we go from here?
Good question. Look, the idea is out there. I think that the more the further along we get with this idea of an entertainment district, I mean, you're going to have to look at this as an anchor. Something like
Yes.
this,
Yeah, to launch something else along with it. Because, the naysayers are always going to say, well, no one's going to go just to see that. Well, no, it's one piece of an overall puzzle.
Sure.
So,
so I haven't met the new mayor yet. I'd love to meet him, but,
Okay.
This is a discussion that, we need to have.
yeah. Okay, here's our list right now. We got to meet with Sid. We got to meet with Rolf.
Yep.
And Whitney Hoffman Sales is going to be in on this too, right?
Sure.
This downtown development
absolutely.
district. So,
Thank you.
all right. I think we have our marching orders. He's Patrick Mulhearn. Dude, I've got to stop, following your social media.
Well, I'll be honest with you. You and I need an hour to catch up on everything that's going on. There's a lot going on with entertainment stuff right now.
Okay, can we pick that up on as soon as I get back from Washington Mardi Gras?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, no, there's a lot of conversations to be had for sure. In the meanwhile, any teasers?
Teasers. Our film commissioner's having a baby today. Let's congratulate Katie Pryor and welcome the newest addition to Baton Rouge.
Oh, gotta love that. Yeah, shout out to Katie Pryor, who is en route to the hospital.
That's
like literally.
I don't
as we
think she'd
speak.
have me tell. She texted me that her water broke. She's on the way. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. Well. All right. We got a break. We got news, traffic, weather coming your way. After that, Lori Steele from the Louisiana Oregon Procurement Agency is in with us next. Patrick Mulhearn. I always appreciate the time. I always appreciate the creativity, dreaming big ideas for Baton Rouge. Let's make it happen.
That's what I do, man. Good to see you.
Here comes news. Oh, see, that was fun. Yeah, everything was so I've been in this funk with zoned in on so many things right now.
Trying to get the logistics of DC and all that. Yeah.
We're building out a mother-in-law suite.
Oh man.
So I've got to call energy and sewage today.
Wow.
We just put a roof on the house, so I got to move.
I know what that's
all
like.
the insurance money from me over to the roofer.
Yeah.
My daughter's texting me mid-segment saying, "Can I send you questions that you need to answer as a parent for the scholarship I'm applying for?"
It never is, does it?
You remember that scene in My Cousin Vinny? Can we add anything else onto this? Anything? That scene, that's me, the last 48 hours.
How old are yours? Your kids are how old?
17 years old, but a senior in high school. And then 7th grade and 3rd grade.
Okay, so I've got excuse me, sorry, spilled a little Red Bull.
You're all right.
Anyway, I got a freshman at LSU, and I've got a 15-year-old at lab school, right? and they are constantly like hitting me like, "Do you have green light? Do you know what I'm talking about?" It's like if they need money for something, it's like you don't give them cash anymore. You hit the little thing or whatever, and so yeah. Well, it's like a debit card for kids or whatever, right? But they need that like whenever they're getting things. So like I will just be in the middle of anything. Dad, I need $15 for this. Like, I mean, phones have ruined it. Yeah. It's the stress.
Yeah, Carrie's about to go to France. My daughter's about to go to France because she took 4 years of French at St. Joseph's.
Oh, cool.
So in your 4th year, you get the option to take that trip. And parents meeting last night, they're like, they only need $450 for spending money. And I'm like, fucking only? Only?
Yeah. Oof. How long are they gone? That's a
like a week and a half.
How cool is that? I didn't go to France when I was
Yeah. Took 4 years of French at St. Paul's, another 3 semesters when I was at LSU.
Oh, you know where the senior trip for, well, it's really after the graduation trip for U High was? Australia.
Oh,
you talk about break the bank.
Crazy. Yeah, but that's like 4 years of French at St. Paul's, 3 more semesters at LSU. You know what I got for that? Nerd.
I know just a little bit of French, and I know that one pretty well. No, well, look, it'll all work out.
What else going on at Celtic?
Well, they do have a couple of things that are like circling. We had a prospect in last week. It's a $25 million independent. See, that's the weird thing now. Is like Hollywood is so broken that like independents are making things now. But when you think about it, even Pitch Perfect was an independent, right?
I didn't even know that.
They get bought by major studios. Major studios and streamers are scared to death to make anything themselves unless it's a reboot or a sequel, right?
Right.
So what we have to do is, if you want to do something original, you got to do it yourself, or you got to so that's real movement now. For another day, we started a company last week, a new company. It's called Irrevocable Designee, and I know that what the hell does that mean? It's
Irrevocable Designee.
There's a thing in the law that says that you can't broker tax credits anymore, but you can name an irrevocable designee to take the tax credits. So, for example, let's say Warner Brothers has $10 million in tax credits, right? Let's say Shell has $10 million in tax liability. Like, they're not communicating right now, right? But they could be working together, right? So that like Warner Brothers gets their money faster, and Shell reduces what they owe the state, right?
Okay.
But nobody's doing that, right? So we're just like, well, we're not brokers, but we could be consultants, and so like we got the state kind of blessed. We're like, yeah, you're right. Go ahead and do that. It's like, okay. So we formed a company last week, and now we're going to help people reduce their income tax liability. So, but but it's also going to make the state more attractive for filming. So that's kind of
and that's the part I left out about having a Hollywood South Museum and a film Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Is when recruits go to LSU,
right?
How many NFL uniforms do they see when they're walking through? Like, oh, he went here, he went here, he went here. I want to go here. That's success. That's success. That's success. I want success.
Right.
To me, it's a recruiting tool. It's a great entertainment venue, sure, but it's also a recruiting tool for filmmakers.
Heck yeah, it is. So. Well, and remember the whole NIL thing is that thing's the dream is still alive on that too, man. So a bunch of folks from CAA, including Brian Lord, the head knocker himself, are coming in for the Super Bowl. I'm trying to get them with the LSU brass to we really talk about.
Who do you want from LSU for this? Do you want Bayou Traditions?
I think she should be there, but I mean probably Scott Woodward and honestly maybe like Tate, because this is actually bigger than sports.
Okay.
This is like LSU brand, like LSU stories, all the LSU stories, right?
All right. So I'm trying to put a list of like, while I'm in DC, who do I need to be lobbying for what?
Dude, I didn't think about that, but that is a great idea, actually. I'm gonna give you kind of. When are you leaving?
Next Wednesday.
Let's talk before Wednesday.
Okay.
I might give you some ideas of plant some seeds.
I want this NIL deal to happen before Georgia does it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So every time, I get scared every time it gets mentioned that like there's Kirby Smart's around the corner going, holy shit, that's good. Like it's.
Well, what's really scary is Texas right now. They're about to pass an incentive. Have you seen their? I'll send you the video. McConaughey, Woody Harrelson, Dennis Quaid, they all made like a promotional video to get their legislature to finally make their incentive permanent or whatever, right?
Okay.
That's scary. I mean, think about it. We have Texas next door. Yeah. And they're with no income tax.
Already no income tax, and they've already got all of the oil money that belonged to us in the 70s.
They have such a surplus from oil that they don't know what to do with it. They really don't know what to do with it. Like,
you look at A&M, Texas, SMU, TCU, the budgets that they have, that they can just dump money into sports, like
it's scary for
yeah.
you know. I mean,
And we drag our feet on good ideas. So
yes, we do. Well, I appreciate you always putting the good ideas out there. You know,
it's fun.
Look, honestly, when you did the NIL thing last year, like next thing I know, like all these people are inviting us to do stuff. I mean, you know, the broadcasters. And,
so I'm if I don't see Rolf today, just play hers.
I need to catch up. Is this going to be online? Like, can I take the look at this?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Yeah, Facebook Live.
All right, I'm going to start.
Yeah, do it.
Let's get people talking.
Yes, absolutely. Appreciate you.
Always.
I'll holler at you.
Yeah, definitely. Before you go to DC, I'm going to give you an update.
Please, yeah. Give me a hit list. Hello. What? Fatter. I was wearing my LOPA t-shirt yesterday at the gym.
Am I here?
Yes, you're here. And I apologize if it smells like Red Bull in here. Patrick just spilled it.
Ooh,
Yeah. Oh, what are we? Well, I cleaned the chair, but I think there's still some on the floor. Anything in particular I need to know going in? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's 8:38 at Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane. Rolling right along. We're pivoting one more time. We got Lori Steele from the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency in with us. Before we dive in, though, got to ask you what you're doing for lunch. If you don't have your plans set yet, might I recommend P.F. Chang's? And, oh, by the way, when you go, ask for the Golden Feast. Ask for the chicken and bubbles. Or maybe the teriyaki fried chicken. Or do the chicken bites that come with a flight of sauces. Or do the Mongolian beef. Or, do the traditional. They've got the chicken lettuce wraps as well. You can't go wrong is what I'm saying here, is whatever you're getting over at P.F. Chang's, it's going to be fantastic. The atmosphere is wonderful. The food is great. And it's not like that when you go get Chinese takeout, how it's like it sits on you all heavy.
Yeah.
No, you get fresh ingredients over at P.F. Chang's. By the way, I did a little research on this one when I first started talking with him.
Yeah.
That PF and PF Chang's, you know what that stands for?
I have no idea.
Paul Fleming.
Oh, okay.
As in Fleming Steakhouse?
Yes.
So you know how Paul Fleming got his start?
No.
Franchising Ruth's Chris Steakhouses. So you're going to get upscale.
It's good.
You're going to get top-notch service.
Everything
you're going to get
you
somebody
mentioned, yeah.
who knows what they're doing. And by the way, he's from New Iberia.
I'm
Originally.
from Acadiana as well.
See, you wouldn't think
Great
P.F.
people.
Chang's is Louisiana born.
No.
But there you go. You'll find him in Town Center, Corporate Boulevard. Look for the Giant Golden Horse.
It's never too early to talk about lunch.
No.
You sold me. You sold me.
Good. Good. That's one. All right. What's happening, Lori? Happy New Year. How are you?
Hey, I love the energy in here when the guests come in and all that. Like it's good, and you're not 100% feeling well, so we appreciate you. But
I'm a complete fog right now. It's
but you're doing great. Like you couldn't tell.
Fake it till you make it, right? That's
story of my life.
What's going on over at LOPA?
Yeah, well, we appreciate you having us
on. Of course, always.
We had some end of the year numbers for 2024, so we wanted to share that.
Okay.
You being one of our media partners, we appreciate that. Our goal is to get people joining our registry,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do that in many different ways. But we were pretty excited because we went on this campaign for education. That's why we partnered with you. We want people to know about it. We want people to ask questions. We want people to go to lopa.org. We want people talking to our volunteers, like Wendy. You know Wendy.
Of course,
she's listening. Hey, Wendy.
For those that don't know Wendy, just Google Kim Mulkey lookalike.
Yeah, so she was on Good Morning America, SEC, and she was having a blast. So we loved it because she was living out loud, right?
Yeah.
And she's a transplant recipient. She got a second chance at life thanks to organ tissue and eye donation. So if you don't know, it's those little red hearts on your licenses. We partner with the OMV, the hospitals, the eye banks, and we just try to get people to know more about it. Unless it impacts your family, a lot of people don't talk about it. So We're trying to get people to talk about it. So we appreciate you guys.
Of course.
But in 2024, there were 303 organ donors, 752 tissue donors, and we transplanted 883 organs and thousands of tissue grafts. So that's somebody that can walk again. That's somebody that can throw a ball again. That's somebody who can drive, live life, watch their kid graduate, take trips, anniversaries, birthdays, because somebody said yes to donation.
The part of this that it often gets overlooked is when these stories happen individually. We don't hear about the individual stories. I mean, every once in a while you'll catch on social media where like somebody meets up with their where you have the parent of a donor meets up with it, and it's all touching. It gets me in the feels every single time.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day basis, we're not going to hear 800 individual stories, and we probably should.
Yeah. So we talk about this. One of our donor moms, Libby Harrison, she said, if this building was on fire and I pulled you guys out, what would you call me? A hero, right? Yeah. And you would be interviewing me. Yeah. So our donors do this every day. They save lives each and every day, and you just don't hear a lot about it. But you're starting to hear more about it. When I learned about it, it was back in 1997, and it was scary. I like to talk about brain death, talk about a heart transplant, but now it's commonplace. So we want folks talking about it. We want folks asking questions, and this is one of the ways that we do it. We partner with you guys.
We got Lori Steele in with us from the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. Okay, so those are the numbers from last year. Where are we at when it comes to need? Where are we at when it comes to waiting lists and the like?
Yeah, so across the country. So imagine Tiger Stadium completely filled, and we're on those coaches like, you guys better win, right? So the Tiger Stadium completely filled. That's how many people are waiting on a life-saving organ transplant as we speak in Louisiana. 2,000 of those people are waiting. So some people can't take care of their family. So we have gentlemen who have kidney issues. You hear a lot about this out there. Most people in Louisiana are waiting on a kidney, but they can't work. They can't support their families. They can't go out on vacation. They can't go to dinner because of that. And so this gives them a second chance. It rejuvenates and allows them to live their lives. And then we're honoring these heroes. Last year, over 500 heroes, we were able to tell their stories. We're trying to do better at that on social media, in the media, just to get people knowing their faces. Like you said, when you go to the OMV and they're going to ask you, do you want to be an organ donor? We want you to remember Wendy's name. We want you to remember David John Neal. We want you to remember Allie Ringe, like all of these people who gave the gift of life.
And then when you do hear about the stories, they are absolutely amazing stories. Yeah. Wendy's is beyond compare. And in the number of people who are in the community who, once you're on board, it's so easy to pick up that momentum. It's because when you do hear the stories, it's something you want to be a part of.
Yeah. So, my background, so I used to do local TV news, and that was one of my first stories. I went out to do a celebration of life, and it was this mom who just didn't want people to forget about her baby. He was on the third day of his sophomore year, but he saved lives. And she said he did more in his short time on earth than most of us will ever accomplish. And she just didn't want people to forget him, his name, his story, his legacy. And that's what we try to do. So LOPA.org, you can read about these amazing heroes all around. You can invite us into your school, to your church, to your temple, anything like that. We go and just have a conversation. Like, let's talk about the facts. What are we facing here? It is a health issue. Yeah. And we want people to know about it and talk about it.
And the ability here, it's been a foggy morning in my head, right? Is it one donor can save up to 8 lives?
Very good.
Nailed it.
And he was wearing his shirt yesterday, so we appreciate that.
Yes, I was wearing
we try.
my LOPA T-shirt. If you saw me at the Y yesterday, I was repping LOPA with the hitting the treadmill and then hitting the dumbbells.
We appreciate that. So one person can save up to 8 lives. You can enhance the lives up to 75 plus. You can give sight to 2 people. It's amazing the things that we can do, and when we have one-on-one conversations, we can kind of go into that. But what is it that's maybe stopping you from signing up? A lot of people are scared, or they saw a movie, or they heard some misinformation. We want to fix that. Misinformation is the number one thing.
What kind of misinformation is still out there?
So a lot of people say, if I have that heart on my license, they won't try as hard to save my life. That's our biggest myth, that we try, and we try, and we try. There was some show, 1,000 Ways to Die, and somebody said, while the organs were being removed, they woke up and they started walking. Well, that's not even possible, right? But a lot of the teenagers believed that because it was a show they were watching. So it was like the summer we had to re-educate again because of that. So it's tough, in the news, like sometimes it's tough to get everybody, getting facts.
No, I understand. And was it Mark Twain that said a lie can get halfway around the world before the truth gets its pants on?
Yeah.
So it's
tough, and we battle that.
The thought that like an EMT on the scene is going to say, no, we're going to trade this one in for that. It's so baffling. Like the idea that, and I get it. Some people you get
Some people don't want to talk about death or death
Okay,
about their
so-
children. Like that's scary, and I get that. But it's commonplace for like my husband Mike and I. Like we talk about it with our kids, and we know that this is a good thing. Like we talk to the people who've been in the operating rooms. We have done it all. So if you want to have that conversation, we can. We're just asking you to take a little time and to learn a little bit.
We got about 2.5 minutes left. Let's talk about the different ways. You mentioned the DMV.
Yeah.
But what other ways are out there to get signed up?
Yeah, so 98% of people will sign up when they go to get their license. They're going to ask you that. We want you to go in there prepared to answer, right? You want you to make an educated decision. A lot of those younger folks, maybe they need their parents talking about them. If you're under the age of 18, the parents need to say yes. So check that out. You can do LOPA.org, so online. When you go to get your hunting and fishing license, that's new. You can do there. On the health app. You looking it up?
No.
LA Wallet.
As you're talking about the hunting license, got a text says, ask about my bill for the hunting license. So shout out to Caleb Kleinpeter, who
Thanks,
is
Caleb.
putting this forward. Tell me about the hunting license part of this.
So that is part of it. When you go to register for your hunting and fishing license, which everybody in Louisiana does, that's another way that we can reach you, and you can sign up to be an organ tissue or eye donor. So for news, like some people have to hear it at least 3 times before they believe it, or it starts getting in there. So we're trying to get you at the OMV. We're trying to get you in a driver's ed class. We're trying to get you in a school setting or a community setting, and we just trying to get these conversations started.
Okay. We're going to have the hard part of the conversation now.
Yeah.
What happens if you thought you were already signed up? Last time you had your driver's license renewed, you thought you were already signed up. And then the last time you talked with Lori, you looked at your license and didn't see the heart there. What's the in-between?
Is this truth? Is this what's happening? So you can sign up at any time, which is great. We have a mom of a recipient, and she said, I pulled the heart off of my license, but then my family was impacted, my own son. So now she advocates to say, check on that, go back and do it. So I don't like to pressure anybody. I want you to do it because that is what you want to do. That is your gift. And we are so grateful here in South Louisiana because we have an amazing group of people, right? So you can sign up anytime. And we can talk about it if you're having some questions or maybe some hesitation. Like that's what we're here for. Not to pressure you, but to educate you.
You say sign up anytime. Where?
Yeah, so LOPA.org, LA Wallet. When you go to get your hunting and fishing license, LOPA.org.
LOPA.org.
There you go. Easy breezy.
All right. I'm on it.
I'm going to stay here and make sure.
No, this will get done during the break. She is Lori Still. I greatly appreciate a couple minutes of your time, and I greatly appreciate the update here. Give us those numbers one more time before we get out, just to refresh, because it was at the beginning of the segment.
Yeah, so 303 organ donors, 752 tissue donors, and we transplanted 883 organs, which is amazing, and we're honoring those heroes.
883 organs. That's a big number.
Think of the lives saved. Think of like a Wendy out there, showing the world that there's life after transplant, surviving and thriving. Very cool stuff. LOPA.org is where you want to start. LOPA, LOPA.org, the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. Yeah. Thank you so much for a couple minutes, Lori. Appreciate you. Absolutely appreciate you. We got Your Money Now coming up. Then a quick break where I got to fill out a little form, and then the outside in to close it out next. So, okay, yes, total confession. I thought I had the little heart on my driver's license. Yeah. I would have sworn up and down that I had the little heart on my driver's license, and then nope. Oh. Nope. But you see, I've been here. This is like my third time. So there you go. No, but like last time you were here, oh, wait, no, I do. Can we get a picture real quick? I know you got. Yay! Thank you. Who can take a picture? You think? Can one of y'all take your mom? He doesn't charge $1. Oh. Thank you. You want a landscape mode or portrait for social? Whatever you think. Of course. Wait. Oh. Yeah, I was gonna say. Let me. All right. Now we got. All right. Ready? No problem. Appreciate you. So is it okay if I email and just say, hey, we got this going on? If there's time to have this, is that okay? I'm not bothering you? Okay. No, absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you. Nice. Thank you. I'm going to let them know you already have a heart. Yeah, I'm glad to know I did, because I don't know how I looked at it and didn't see it. It was tiny. Yeah. It was tiny. Yeah. But, I was, because it was after you and Wendy were the last time I saw y'all, or was it, we were promoting Eric's concert. Yeah, and it was after that I looked at my driver's license and I'm like, oh, shit. Now I got to you got to do it. I know. But, but that's okay.
spent all that time just complacent. Well, I'm glad I was complacent because I did have it. So.
Well, and it's okay. So if you went back and did it, it would show that it was duplicate, and it would have been fine too.
Okay. Cool.
Appreciate you. Enjoy.
Thank you for the goodies.
Yay.
These will be shared everywhere.
When you can't button your pants, thank me.
Yeah, pumping sugar that's not from a king cake.
Yeah, all right.
You know?
Share.
Oh, no, this will be shared
I
everywhere.
hope you feel better, and thanks for working with us. We appreciate you.
Always.
All right, see y'all later.
Later.
Bye. Have a good day.
Pecan brittle. Not peanut brittle. Pecan. Oh, yeah. Bye, Lori. How good is that? Nope. That's the guest chair. Byron says, I'm a donor, but I feel my organs will be used as an after poster for med students. As long as they're being used, man. Gibson's in Terrebonne Parish. Come on, Brittle, get some. It is dangerous. .856 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Coach Kim Mulkey and the LSU Tigers hit the road to face Florida Sunday at noon. You can hear the Tigers all season long on your home for LSU women's basketball. Talk 107.3 FM. Also, don't forget, download the Talk 107.3 mobile app. Find out what you missed each day at talk1073.com and watch us on Facebook or the Talk 107.3 Baton Rouge YouTube channel. All of it courtesy of Lake Urgent Care. Lake Urgent Care, walk-in care for minor illnesses and injuries. We got one segment to go here before handing off the Moon Griffon and the Moon Griffon show. Man, thank y'all for playing along today, and thanks for all the guests who have stopped by. Going back to Richard Sprinkle in our first hour for Legally Served, Metro Councilman Dwight Hudson in the second hour, Quentin Anthony Anderson in the second hour. We had Patrick Mulhearn this hour and Lori Steele. By the way, I already know what we're going to do the next time Lori comes on from the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. We're going to do an Ask LOPA. We're going to do an Ask LOPA because I wasn't on Facebook while she was in here, but then as soon as she was gone, when we got into the break, I opened up the Facebook Live, and Tim asks, is it feasible for older people to be organ donors? I'm an older person. Would anybody want my organs? Like, that's legitimate questions. So next time Lori's in, we need to do a Ask LOPA segment to be sure. All right, tell you what. We got 2 minutes to go. All right, let's get it. Outside in. Starting off in West Feliciana Parish, apparently the parish will not be able to collect sales and use taxes on the electronic and computer components installed in the proposed Hut 8 data center, according to Parish President Kenny Havert. A law passed in the regular legislative session last year exempts data centers from paying sales taxes on the bulk of the equipment that will be used in the center. Havert told this to the Parish Council at their January 13th meeting. Heading over to Iberville Parish, the Plaquemine High School marching band has been chosen to march in the official National Independence Day Parade on July 4th of this year. The band previously participated back in 2017, making it their second invitation. You know they're good if they got called back, right? Moving over to Evangeline Parish, attempts to identify human remains found outside of Ville Platte last month continue, and a search of the area this past weekend turned up nothing. Sergeant Darian Guillory of the Ville Platte Police Department provided more info on the investigation of the human remains. They were discovered back on December 23rd of last year on Wabash Road, north of Ville Platte, and yet still nobody has come forward. Closing out New Orleans, NOPD officers were honored on Monday for their bravery on January 1st for stopping the Bourbon Street terrorist from causing even more suffering and damage than he already did. Officer Jacoby Jordan, Sergeant Nigel Daggs, and Officer Christian Bayer, all of the 5th District, were given the First Pillar of Courage Award for extraordinary bravery and service. Officer Joseph Rodrigue, who was still recovering from his injury, could not attend the ceremony. That is it for the Outside In. That is it for us. If you missed anything, all of our interviews will be on demand at talk1073.com, courtesy of Lake Urgent Care. We'll see you tomorrow. Moon's next. Okay, guys, I got to get out of here for today. I got an interview coming up in about 15, 20 minutes that I need to take care of, or I need to prep for, I should say. Oh, shoot. Wendy was watching. Okay. Thank y'all so much for playing along today. Again, I apologize. I was not very interactive at all on Facebook Live today. I have felt like Dookie all day long. No excuse. I need to do better for y'all, but thank you for sticking it out. We'll see you tomorrow.